You're unmuted.
Great. Thanks for everybody being here. We'll call the meeting to order of the Benzie Commissioners in the Frank Walter House Boardroom for January 27th, 2006. Could I get roll call, please?
Janat,
Here.
Markey is excused. Matthews.
Here.
Nye.
Here.
Roloff.
Here.
Sauer.
Here.
Greg.
Here.
We have a quorum.
You'd stand, please, for the invocation. Len?
Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for allowing us to gather here safely. And we ask that you bring us discernment and wisdom as we make decisions for our fellow citizens of Benzie County. Be with us on this day. In your holy name we pray. Amen.
Thank you. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. You had the agenda in advance. Is there any additions to the agenda?
Yesterday I sent out an email to the group related to a letter of support for the Grand Traverse Band of Ottawa and Chippewa Indians for the Crystal Shores Casino in Benzie County. They are asking that the Board of Commissioners adopt that letter of support today for their casino. They do have a deadline of 5 o'clock today to submit those letters of support. So that is why the rather quick turnaround. And you all had a copy of that letter.
So under new agenda, we'd make that item F.
That would be fine.
We did get a letter from Dr. Kuiper, wanted to renew, and I would like to put that on so we can put him back on the health board. He can stay on now without renewal, but that anybody else.
So my suggestion would be that just above commissioner reports, we typically will have committee appointments.
Okay,
And we'll have that for the health department.
all right, thank you.
There's no objections, anything else? I'd entertain a motion.
I make a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Thank you.
Second. Oh, go ahead.
Len seconded. Additional comments? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Very good. You have the minutes of January 13th.
Greg moves to approve the minutes from 1/13/2026.
Can I get support?
I'll support.
Thank you, Gary.
There is, under Bridget Hassig's report, the last sentence, it needs to just, it's very insignificant, but it says they need finding more direct care workers. I think it needs to be changed to they need to find.
Any other corrections? We have a motion. I assume with corrections will be fine.
Correct.
Gary?
Yes.
All right. If there's no other comments, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We'll move to our first public comment. Does anybody from the public like to address the commissioners? We'll close public comment. And we'll move into the elected officials and department head updates. Do we have anybody here that would like to update us, please?
Nick Tech with the building department?
I'll just draw your attention to the page that has the history of building permits over the last few years. You'll see for the fourth quarter, compared to last year, we were up 18 building permits. Then for the year, we were up 7 permit, gradual increase for the last few years. We do have our fee increase going into effect, February 1st that we, voted on, they voted on the last meeting or a couple meetings ago. That's been put on the website. We're noticing, we haven't noticed down in our office. We haven't really heard any negative feedback from any contract relating to that, so don't see any hiccups during there.
You have a copy of their report? Is there any questions or comments for Nick? Nick, thanks for taking the time to be here today. All right. You have the, oh, good. Thanks, Corey.
Good morning, Corey Ellis, Benzie County 911 Director. I got a couple of things here, both in your packet. Not going to go through page by page. Obviously, it's in there. You had time to read it. Just going to go over some highlight stuff, some stuff I feel is kind of important. The first thing I'll touch on is the memo I wrote. Just a highlight of the things that have occurred over the past 3 years. Really, I used that timeline of when I showed up just to give a benchmark of all the accomplishments that the team has made. When we talk about financial management and the budget transparency, obviously there's been a lot of conversations involving this board as well. I'm talking about the history of the budget, trying to figure out where some snafus occurred, cleaning all that up and just being more transparent going forward and being more accurate. There was also a lot of conversations, obviously with county administration on lining all of those things up and figuring all those things out. I don't have a whole lot of info to share because it hasn't yet been published, but we did go through an audit from the state. I have seen the draft report that they are going to submit to their respective boards and committees for approval. As I saw it, there are no distinguishing remarks. So I took that as a positive. They made some comments on just some labeling that we could do in our invoicing to just make things more clear to them as they review it. Other than that, they really just gave the thumbs up of everything looks good. But again, that's draft. When that's published and final, I'll bring you a copy of it as well. Some other things that we accomplished in the last few years, talking about communication systems for all the county departments. We talked about Benzie EMS, the jail, Sheriff's Department, Road Patrol, Animal Control as well. We centralized and really made one point of contact when we deal with radios. That's dispatch and more specifically me, but that allowed us to be more uniformed and coordinated as we do deployments and upgrades and updates on the radios to be consistent. So that's a positive for sure. When we talk about training and professional standards, obviously you guys are aware we deployed the EMD system. You know, that was a huge project. It has gone very well in my opinion. One of the more recent things we've done as well is we have brought in the use of a call simulator that's AI based. So you're talking to a computer and it's simulating what type of calls you might take, emergency calls. It can simulate anything. Domestic violence calls, shooting calls, slip and falls, stolen property, etc. So it allows us to provide our trainees with a real life scenario of what calls they will take with no liability. They're practicing, not a real call, but they can understand the stress they're going to be put under and work on the line of questioning that they need to have memorized before the call comes in. So that's been a great tool for us and had a lot of really good feedback from everyone, the trainers, myself, and the people using it, trainees as well. They really like it. We've updated over 39 policies and there's still more to go. We're working through that. So that's been a really good thing. A real recent thing is we implemented performance evaluations and we've triggered the first one to start. I decided to start top down instead of bottom up with that. Felt like that was the right move. So they'll work through that evaluation for myself and then we'll go down the chain from there. We've been in a lot of discussions again, talking about budget stuff, but on a regional level and on a state level. I was supposed to be going to Lansing next week to speak with some representatives down there. We just learned yesterday that they have since canceled, kind of par for the course. But we're still working on that through the different organizations that I'm a part of. We're still trying to have those conversations. The Funding Act, it's commonly referred to as the 911 Enabling Act. It's supposed to sunset in 2027, so there's an active rewrite going to happen. But it's terrible timing because there's also an election coming up. So they can't do anything right now because everybody that's going to support it right now or would support it may not be here. And so it's kind of frivolous to go through that. So we're trying to navigate that on a statewide perspective. We've definitely had conversations. We're not the only county struggling with a $3 cap on surcharge. There's a lot of counties. We're very vocal. So whether or not we can make any movement on that is still to be seen, but we're trying. When we talk about community engagement and public education.
Can I stop you just?
Yeah,
for-
absolutely.
So today, and this is the benefit for people listening also. Today, we're allowed a maximum of a $3 surcharge on a person's phone bill, whether it be cell or land line, if it's billed to our community.
Yes, sir. Yep.
And what's the objective of your association to get that, move that cap up, or what is the objective?
So to say for the association, I wouldn't say they have a specific objective. They want to engage in conversation on what that cap would look like. I believe unofficially, yes, we are trying to either shift it to make that a local decision to cap it, which good luck with the state, right? Like they're not going to entertain that idea. But if they're not, then let's engage in conversation that factors in the cost of living, the cost of services, all of those things that have skyrocketed that are not incorporated into this surcharge cap. This cap was set many years ago and no adjustment. So I think anecdotally, yes, we're looking to make a change to it, to increase it or to shift it from the state capping it to the local counties or entities capping it.
And we've discussed in the past the fact that a number of our residents may be billed in a different location than Benzie County, and our population, because it swells by 3 times during peak seasons for us, puts a stress on public safety. Is there any data available that shows what percentage of the households in Benzie County are actually contributing to the $3 per line in our county versus what we're missing? Do I need to say it differently, or do you understand?
No, I understand the question. I'm just trying to think on the spot. I'm not sure on that. I would hesitate to say there is. And the reason I would say that is when we receive the checks and the funding from these cell phone or these, it's not just cell phones, so misspeak there, these carrier providers, they don't tell us what the address is or even who it is. All we get is a number, and we have no way to verify that. We have no way to verify they're even telling us the truth, to be honest with you. So I'm not sure that we would be able to work through that. We could look at it from maybe a number by adding all of the carrier, what they submit to us, adding whatever their device count is, add all those up to maybe give us an idea, but I wouldn't think that that'd be very accurate because we don't know if they even live here or that it's representative of that household.
Okay.
So I think that'd be really hard to get, but I think your point is valid that would be crucial to figure out. We just don't have a way of capturing that.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions before so when we, going back to the memo, when we talk about community engagement and public education, I would say that's probably where we've had a lot of growth. We are in the schools. We are at public events. We're at, like reading for kids, things of that nature. We're going to career fairs at the schools, et cetera. So that's pretty new for us, and we're still building that, and we're still improving on that. Right now we're slated, just as an example, in March, we're supposed to be going down to Frankfurt they have I don't want to call it a career fair, like we're trying to recruit or hire. It's more of just an education on what 911 is. There's a lot of misunderstanding thanks to Hollywood on what 911 is. And so we have to correct a lot of that and to show people that it is a career option. So those are really the highlights from that. We've come a long way in the last 3 years. We've made a lot of changes. And I use very specifically because it's not just me. I've asked my team to do a lot for years, and they have all stepped up. Of course, in some of these conversations too, as they go through the community, and some of them have made it back here. They've been tough conversations, especially when we talk about financial stuff. But we had to prioritize dispatch first. We have to meet our funding needs first, and if there's stuff left over, or if it makes sense that we can help, we can have that conversation. But most specifically, those have been pretty tough, and I think we all understand that. But we worked through that, and we're in a better place now, I believe, and we have a better path forward as well. Any questions specifically on that? Yes, sir.
Just one question. What does your 2026 look like? What is your number one thing you're focusing on as it when your team are?
Sure. So I would, I would say the number one is a tie. It's always staffing. We still have one vacancy right now, so it's always going to be that. We need to fill that. But it's also figuring out what the future is for us, the budget, the finances. Obviously, this board today is going to continue that conversation, right? And it's just trying to figure out what that looks like and line those things up. So I would say those are the two most important things.
Any other comments or questions for Corey?
I'd just point out that you've been very diligent about attending the tax allocation meetings and making the case that if you are supplemented by the general fund. The $3 surcharge cap is not covering the needs of 911. And it's something that the community needs to be aware of when we do make this effort to address the Headley rollback situation. You would agree?
Yeah, absolutely.
Good comments. Anything else for Corey? Corey, I love the comprehensiveness of your reporting to us. I know that takes additional time, but it helps us understand what's happening in your department.
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah, if I may, just, you know, that was the memo side of it. Just a couple of things in the report too. Just for, I think a lot of it's for the benefit of the public too. One of the specific things that I chose to include in our report this year, which is a little bit different than we have done in the past, but I think it talks about the importance of exactly what Commissioner Nye just mentioned, is I put 2 pages in here. It talks about our funding. A lot of the questions have come up of how are we funded? I thought you had a millage. I don't know how many times I've heard that. So I just wanted to put that in here and to share that information for the benefit of the public. There's a page that talks about what the funding currently is, and then the second page is really just some Q&A stuff that I tried to pull together of what are the most common questions I've been asked or that we've heard, and try to provide an answer to that so the public can better understand where we are and where we're trying to go. Skipping through a few pages, getting into the statistics specifically. I do think it is important to just highlight the work that the team is doing up there. It's not slowing down by any means. 2025 in total, we had 7,186 911 calls spread out throughout the year, throughout the shift. As one could guess, yes, the summertime we're a lot more busy. Makes sense. We also handled 20,010 admin calls. That's both inbound and outbound. So in total, we're over 27,000 phone calls that my staff handled throughout the year. A lot, especially when we factor in what the staffing levels are as well. A lot of work for them. We still maintained what our national standards are, which we need to answer every 911 call within 15 seconds, 90% of the time. Well, we're at 98.8. We're doing really good. Sorry, that's on page 11 of that report. Page 12, these are what I consider the key phone metrics. And that's the answer time. We're meeting those. We're not really just meeting them, we're far exceeding them. And that's a great thing. We're exceeding them across all shifts. As you can see in the chart, the reason that the daytime is a little bit lower, you know, when I say a little bit lower, 0.6%, the reason it's a little bit lower is because that's when all those admin calls are. The courts, the different county departments aren't calling us at 4 a.m. They're calling us at 9 a.m, 10 a.m, etc. So it takes a little bit longer to process through some of those. So that's the reasoning that's slightly lower. As we move through the different quarter statistics, I included a new one this year because it's pretty important for us, and we're really trying to advocate and educate and market it at Smart 911. So we have seen an increase this year, and that's awesome. They're not numbers I want to see. I want to see them more, but advertising that has proven to be difficult. because we can advertise all we want. We've got to get the click through. We have to get people to either scan the QR code, visit the website, and actually go through the process. A lot of people know about it. I just did an education piece last night for the local fire school. They know about it. Not a single one of them signed up for it. So that's a unique challenge for us. We're really trying to push it. It's a really important service. All it takes is that sign up, that initial sign up, and then every 6 months to just review it, make sure it's accurate. So for those listening and for just for the public benefit, that's smart911.com, and there's a green button that says sign up. It is free to you. It is no cost to you as an end user, and it populates a lot of very valuable information for dispatch without you having to do anything except make that phone call to 911. It's all automated. New stat that I included this year, just for I don't want to say entertainment purposes, but just for curiosity purposes. The top 5 call natures that we handled. As one would guess, or maybe not, but for me it was obvious. Law enforcement was our biggest piece of the pie. They're the busiest. That's pretty normal. They were 77% of our calls. The fire department, and that's fire specific. That's most of our fire departments go on medical calls, but this 5% is not that. That's a medical call. So fire related calls were 5% of our work, and EMS was 18. The number 1 call nature was a traffic stop, by far. Also not abnormal. That's pretty consistent. The second busiest call, which is, I don't want to say abnormal, but it does stand out to me, is the amount of 911 hangups we had. And so we consider something a 911 hangup if we can't have contact. Somebody calls, maybe accidental, or they don't have good service and they can't actually talk to us and we can't make contact back to them. That's considered a hangup. If we make contact back with them and it was an accident, we call that a misdial. So that number is a reflection of how many people called 911 for any reason, and we didn't have contact with them. I also included, we had 2 significant weather events in 2025. We had a windstorm in March and we had a winter storm in December. And you can see in there pretty drastic increases to our workload occurred on those 2 events. For example, the windstorm in March, our admin calls increased by 600% during that time period, and our 911 calls increased by 460%. For the most recent winter storm that we had just last month, our 911 calls went up 200% and our radio traffic went up 300%. So that's pretty significant. For those things, we do upstaff. I try to be as proactive as I can, just like this last Friday. We upstaffed to make sure we had enough people for the wind. Wind was really the problem for us. I also included some facts about 911, again, just trying to include some public education pieces in all of this. And then as we near the end, some notable accomplishments. All of you are aware of these things that happen, but they're nice. It's just a reminder to the public. We did work through our radio encryption project in 2025. Very big project, somewhere in the tune of $150,000, somewhere around there. The new radio tower is online. Many years for that to come to fruition. A lot of different partners in that, state level, regional, local, et cetera. And then we redid our training program entirely. That was a really big project, and so far we're seeing that pay off already. So as we look to 2026, as Commissioner Matthew already asked, and it's right here in the report too, staffing is important to us. We have 1 vacancy. We need to work to fill that. The other one is sustainable funding. Both of those already talked about a little bit. But the other big thing that we're doing is we're going to work towards what we're calling GIS-based medical dispatching concept, meaning the closest ambulance based on their actual location and the call itself going. We're trying to, as one could imagine, the political conversations are engaging. We're trying to get rid of those jurisdictional boundaries. Closest ambulance is what's in the best interest of patient care. And that's what our med control wants to see too. So we're trying to make that happen. We're trying to work through that, not just change it overnight. This is what we're doing, deal with it. We're trying to engage in those conversations and do what is best going forward. I'll take that opportunity too to talk about, I noticed later today, that we're talking about the Caligo GIS contract as well. Absolutely amazing. I can't say enough. I have a different contact than the rest of, equalization in the county has. I have my own contact, for 911 stuff. And he's been absolutely amazing. I don't know how many hours of his day I have taken to clean up all of our data. And we still have a really long way to go as far as 911 is concerned. But he is there, he is responsive, and he is the one doing most of the work. He's getting the input from me and my department, and he's the one physically doing the work. So I can't say enough good things about them. Please,
Approve
please
the
consider
extension.
renewal of that 100%. I don't even want to entertain looking for somebody else. They're amazing. Any
Have one.
questions?
Question. Yes. You talked about your evaluation. Now, who's gonna evaluate you?
So, what we adopted, we adopted a policy at the advisory board. And what we adopted was the chair of that board, which I am not actually appointed to that board because I'm not supposed to be. So the chair of that board, the board itself decides another person as a second, and then Katie's the third.
Is your deputy director be involved in this?
We had talked
No?
about that, and from a legal perspective, the feedback was it's not great to go that route.
Just curious how this is going.
That's been brought up with my evaluations before too, and a legal continues to say it is not a good practice to have your subordinates evaluate you.
It's always interesting,
But it's not good
I
practice.
know. Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely.
Any other questions or comments?
I would make one. I would just highlight your deputy director, Ms. Wilson's report in the packet. It was refreshing. I was impressed to see her priority for the emphasis on making sure your staff knows what the mental health resources are. You are part of our first responder team. And just the report overall shows you're making strides towards serving the community, but also taking care of your employees. That was impressive to me.
Thank you. I'll make sure to let her know, and that's a very important topic for her. And obviously there may be a situation where I have to say, well, let's reevaluate this. But for the most part, at a very high level, I've told her to just run with it. When you need me, come to me, but run with it, whatever you need. I know that also, I'll take the opportunity to give a nice little shout out, I guess, to the change that we had to our EAP program 2 years ago now, I think. She was really impressed by that. She came from another county, and that other county doesn't have anything like that. May or may not also be where I came from. But she was very surprised at the level of conversation that they had with her when she called and asked about it and the services that they offer. So, again, as feedback on that, that's been a great service.
Comment. Anybody else? Anything else for us, Corey?
Good, thank you.
Okay. Again, thanks for the comprehensiveness.
Absolutely, thank you.
The other. So if I could just pause for a second, I should have said this at the beginning of the meeting. Under new business, item D is scheduled for 10 o'clock. So I'll have to interrupt whatever we're doing at that point because we have someone coming in remotely for that. Go ahead, please.
Good morning, Kelly Long, County Treasurer. Just a couple of updates. It's been a couple months, but I'm fully staffed and they're awesome. Kudos to my staff out there. They're doing great. I will be heading off to conference this coming next week, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So I'll be out of the office for that. A couple of updates we've got going on here. Our Wayside Church settlement that's been ongoing for years is now live and active. We have until February 4th as our funding date, which we're set on that. We're going to be okay. They're claiming, I've got a timeline here from my attorneys. There's about 16,687 claims out there for the whole state. And about 10,000 of them they're calling suspicious claims. So they're saying it's going to be a while before we actually get these distributions out. It could be as early as November of this year and late as May of next year for those Wayside Church distributions. Our total is around, depending on what's suspicious and not, we're around 900,000 roughly for our payout. Might be less, depending on what they come up with. This is different from the class action opt-outs that we'll be talking about later in this meeting. Those are ones that opted out of the Wayside Church. And that they are working on those settlements right now. We had 5 that opted out, and we're working on those settlements right now. Another good news is our 78T process, which is our foreclosure process, has been approved out of, it is a good state statute out of four of the 5 courts that it's been in so far has said we are constitutional. The 5th court is still in the process of not wrapping that up, so they haven't finished yet, but it looks good that our foreclosure process is where it needs to be. Those surplus proceeds that we pay out on is a good thing of what we're doing. So that's a good thing as well. I think that's all I have at this time. Any questions in regards to any of that good stuff?
Yes, I'm sorry, but I don't know anything about Wayside Church. Can you give me
Wayside
just a little
Church
bit?
is the western half of the state of these class action lawsuits that happened due to Raffaele, which was back in 2013-14, where it's been defined as unconstitutional that the foreclosing governmental units, which are mostly the counties, are taking people's property at foreclosure and then selling them and then not giving their proceeds back to them. So we came up with our 78T state statute clause where we have a procedure now, starting in 2021, I think is when it started, where we will now pay out those proceeds as long as they file their intent of claim. A lot of these properties have deceased people, people that don't want nothing to do with it. We've had a lot of issues where, I mean, that's why a lot of these things happen where these proceeds stay within the county. So this one person, Raffaele, decided, hey, this is wrong. And they set up this lawsuit, and it brought in all these people from the years of 2020 back to 2013. And then that's where we're at right now. The Pun versus Isabella County case is ongoing. There's a hearing set up for February 25th is when the Supreme Court's gonna hear that case. But as far as the Wayside Church goes, there were no certs filed in regards to waiting upon that Pun versus Isabella case, which is good for us. And we are going forward with distributions of the 16,000 different claims that received so there's a step process. It's going to take about 1.5 years before it's all done, but it's a good thing. We're finally done or close to it.
Christie?
Thank you.
Any other questions for Kelly on this subject? Kelly, then I'd just add regarding the Wayside Church case, remind us, we have about $2 million that was set aside in anticipation of payouts.
That is correct.
And what I heard you say is at this juncture, we have about $900,000 worth of claims that we know we have to pay.
Yes, that's the most I'm thinking from what my list contains. Yes.
Okay.
If any of those are found suspicious, meaning somebody filed a claim on their behalf and they shouldn't have, then that won't be paid out, obviously. But I think 900,000 is roughly the most. Our opt-outs, I think we're about 100,000. So altogether, we're looking at maybe about $1 million.
And is there a time limit as to when people have to file for their claim?
These have already been filed. So this is
Understand that, but
different.
Let's say something happened today.
Oh, you mean if we foreclose this year?
Yeah, and we sold the property.
Mhm.
How much time does the property owner or the family, the estate has to file for that?
Okay, so the process is March 31st, they have to pay their taxes when they're 3 years behind. So as that point, if they do not pay, they have till July 1st of this year to file their intent of claim. Okay, and then auctions start in August, normally August, September. And then by October, our middle company Title Check is sending out the notices to those that have filed their intent of claim, letting them know this is how much it's gonna be, and here's your deadline for filing with your courts, so the courts can go through their process, which normally I think is February 15th of next year, of the following year. And then by May, we're getting ready to go to the courts and get things settled. And normally by June, July, they're getting their payments.
Very good.
So it's about a 1.5 year process, but
And does the statute put the burden on your office to notify people who may have an interest that they have this window to file an intent?
no, it's the burden of the people. It's on them. But we in the office try to let people know, you know, especially for those that have called afterwards that, oh my gosh, I forgot. We let them know, hey, there's a process. Because I know as county treasurers, we want to be out there helping the people. And the way the whole process has flown so far, I mean, we have attorneys come to our counter on April 1st wanting that listing. So it's like, if I can help someone file their intent of claim on their own, and that way they're getting that surplus money, all of it, that's a good thing in my book. So.
Other questions or comments on this subject? Do you have anything else for us, Kelly?
I don't at this time. I'm good.
You want to stay just for a second to see if there's any questions regarding, is there any other department heads that want to speak? Then why don't we move into the finance report? Who did the AP reviews?
Chrissy did one. So the bills today are $286,158.88.
Trig will move to approve the bills of $286,158.88.
Second.
Additional comments or questions? If not, roll call, please.
Matthews,
Yes.
Henry,
Yes.
Roloff.
Yes.
Sauer,
Yes.
Trigg,
Yes.
Janat,
Yes,
motion carried.
very good. All right, we'll move to unfinished business. Katie, do you want to introduce the first subject, please?
Sure. So the first subject under unfinished business is related to the Road Commission capital improvement bonds. We do have representatives here today from the Road Commission if there's any questions to have. But today is a two-part action that is requested. One part of that action is to move forward with Hobbs and Black as the architecture firm. I sat with the Road Commission and we interviewed multiple firms and heard from them as their best practices and how they go about projects and those sorts of things. And it was an overwhelming consensus that Hobbs and Black really was the firm to work with through this project. I do have their proposal in the packet, but also here, and then I have a hard copy of the presentation they provided if anyone would like to see it. The Road Commission Board has also recommended Hobbs and Black, so just asking for your concurrence there. The other part of this motion today is related to the agreement that we've talked about at the previous meeting, the agreement that would be between the county and the Road Commission that's specific to the bond repayment and that relationship related to the bonding. That was prepared by legal counsel, Pat McGow, related to that bonding. And so that hopefully spells out the relationship as we discussed it. If it doesn't, let me know and we can make some tweaks to that agreement if needed. But that really is the purpose of today's action. And then the folks are here if there's any questions as well.
Katie, did any commissioners join you on that discussion regarding the oversight of the project?
No, I was the only one who was at the interviews
Yeah.
with the Road Commission folks.
Okay.
I'm not sure which commissioner went to their meeting last Thursday when they made the decision, as I was at a conference.
And this will be two motions should we decide to move forward, correct?
I have it just lumped together as one.
Okay. We've had lots of discussion on this now for a number of months. Is there any questions or comments you'd like to ask before we seek a motion on this? Harry?
One, and maybe it's because I can't find it, but where's this firm out of?
Grand Rapids.
Grand Rapids. I see they did Allegan and some of those, so they do a lot of work downstate. It's just,
They really are the Road Commission experts is what we
Okay.
found. They're also working in Kalkaska as well. So they have done Northern Michigan commissions also. And during those interviews, they were very committed to being in person. Of course, that was Bob Rosa. He was very adamant that people be here and not on Zoom or what have you. And they were very specific of we will be in person as much as we need. We will be in Northern Michigan. So that really reassured the folks.
That's pretty important.
Yes.
From the commissioners, is there other questions or comments?
I had a quick question. Did they give you during the interview any kind of rough guesstimate on finish time? Where they said by, this time next year or 2 years?
Yeah,
by that
they
point?
were the only architects that actually provided a timeline and a schedule of what they were intending to do. The intention is to break ground by September this year and be moved in by November next year.
Nice. Thank you.
And we did have some stuff on the resolution that Joe wanted to talk about. That's why he's here today. So
We'll get to
Brings up
that.
one more question.
Sure.
Because of that time frame, is that gonna give us ample time to get the bonds?
I believe so, yes.
Yeah.
I mean, they'll sell them.
It's pretty fast.
So
Yeah.
there is one, I don't know if it's more or less an issue, but some we got to talk about with the bonds. If we want to break ground in September, bonds will be sold. At that time, we'll have a probably
Holding
2-month window where we're going to need funds to start the constructions. Because if we wait for the bonds to be sold and then when we receive the money, we'd have to wait that 2-month window and then start paying and get it done, which will put us into the winter when they're trying to pour footings for concrete. So we were hoping to use some of that.
Yeah, I'll explain a little easier. So, and I spoke with Pat McGow last week as well. He was at my conference. So there's a holding period of when you sell the bonds before, proceeds come in. And that's usually 45 to 60 days. And so, as many of you know, when you've done construction projects, you have to have some cash flow to begin before your funding comes in. And so working through that, I wouldn't call it a hiccup, but working through that, the road commission would need funding for cash flow for that first, few weeks to start the project. So we're not delaying the project. And then the county has the ability to pay themselves back. So the road commission has themselves to pay themselves back with the bond proceeds. So, and that happens quite often among other counties and, municipalities that are bonding. And Pat said that usually is what happens. So essentially what would happen is the funding that the road commission has now, some of it would be utilized to get the project going. And then when those first bond proceeds start coming in, you're going to pay yourself back so that you're not, short the funding. And so what that may mean is part of this reserve that we've indicated that we want a restricted line of reserves specifically for the payments from the road commission. Some of those reserves would need to be tapped during that first 45 to 60 days to just get the project started. And then immediately when those bond proceeds come back, those funds go into that restricted line so that those funds are staying there for if something were to happen in the future and we needed to come up with additional funds for bond repayment.
Yeah,
That makes sense?
That's what I was trying to say.
Well, the county's not, right now, the road commission has the funding to do this.
This is where
Guy behind you.
This is where Joe comes in regarding the funding as to how he sees that playing out.
All of your comment.
Part of the problem I'm running into the agreement, you guys will turn to page 6 or page 2 for number 6 and I'm number 7. We have just a little under $3 million set aside today. Right now, our MTF revenue is falling but less than last year while the transition from the old plan to the new plan is happening. And Art, well, I talked to you before, March is when we're going to start seeing the additional funding coming in. What I'd like to ask, and I don't want to hold up the process by any means. Item number 6, investment, county investment in funds. By law, I'm not allowed to have a separate investment class with just the road commission. It's under the county's umbrella already. Any Michigan class account I have is already under the county already. So I don't want to hope that we don't have to establish another Michigan class account. We can leave it as such where the funds are today.
Yes.
That way I can record the interest payments every month that I'm required to by law. So 6 kind of seems not necessary, I should say, because we've already hit, I can't have a separate account.
So that's one of those That's one of those legal, you must state sort of clauses. That's
Okay.
the intention. That's how it's happening right now. Kelly's investing the different funds for the different entities. So nothing's going to change with that process as it stands. This is one of those, you're essentially restating what the law says according to the attorneys.
Okay, it just wasn't clear in the actual agreement. The biggest issue though was number 7, the budgeting item.
Joe, before you leave that, but as I read number 6, it specifically says authorized by Michigan law. So doesn't that cover it?
Well, essentially,
Yeah.
it's not ours, it's yours,
Correct.
under our umbrella.
Which is how we're doing it now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay,
Just want to make clear, just clarify what we're doing.
gotcha.
It's a 7 to budgeting. And as Katie and Troy described, we do need seed money to make this happen. If you do decide to accept the Black and Hobbs bid, or Hobbs and Black bid, I would need seed money up front. So what I'm asking is this 3-year escrow doesn't specify when that's required, when that has to be in place. It seems kind of loosey-goosey as far as when and where. If my 2026 budget's already done, and we've been following it for the last since September 30th. So 2026 does seem kind of redundant.
So this is the fiscal year commencing in 26, which would be technically in our terms, the 27 fiscal year.
I'm reading it different, but okay.
Okay, that's how I read it. Because we commenced this 26 budget in 25.
What I guess what I'm asking, Katie, is that the fact that this 3-year budget needs to be in place the year that the first debt principal is requested. The first year's comes due, whenever that may be. Because right now, I don't know what to budget for. I have no idea what the payment terms or the interest rate or anything for that matter, till we sell the bonds. I don't have a clue. I have a general idea. But until we know what the final interest rate of the bonds is going to be, and I believe when is the first bond payment, would that be due at the end of the project or 1 year or when?
Be at the end of the project typically.
Anybody know?
It's usually when it closes up.
Okay.
So after the project's done.
So I guess what I'm asking is, can this somehow be modified? I don't want to get in hold of the process, but can it be specified that 3-year window or 3-year requirement be in place by the time the bonds or the first payment comes due? That would allow us the flexibility to upfront the money to pay the contractors and different things ahead of time until the bond sale is done. Otherwise, I can't pull money out of my current operations this year and not have to restrict what we're going to do this summer for paving projects is what I'm getting at. So I don't know when this 3-year worth of payments, when does this specify has to be in place? It doesn't really specify that I can see. Am I reading it wrong?
I read it as for the 26-27 fiscal year, because that's the one commencing in 26. So to me, that's the next fiscal year, which is based on the estimated timing is probably when the first payment's going to be due is in the next fiscal year. But I hear what you're saying. You're wanting a little flexibility rather than specifically stating the fiscal year, but saying when the bond payments start becoming due.
Yeah, I just don't want to
right?
be restricted to this summer's projects. I have to pull money away from them to make this commitment.
Mhm.
I do have $3 million, which is a little over 2 years worth of payment already. That's already there. And until I start seeing the additional MTF funds in the latter half of this summer and fall of 26, I won't be able to make up that shortfall until that happens. Just so I want you to be aware upfront what we're after. So that's what I'm asking is your interpretation. If you're okay with that, I'm okay with that, as long as we're on the same page.
Kelly, from your standpoint, what's your thought process on restricted funds being for the next fiscal year, starting to budget those restricted funds? Or would you like to see the agreement? Because you're the one who's investing, you're the one who's monitoring that side of it from the county side of it. From your perspective, with the fiscal year or with the payment is essentially what I think Joe is asking. Come up, there's people on the YouTube.
Well, it's on the same phone going, we're kind of going, what do we do?
Just going by our head shakes.
So the way the agreement is currently written to me is with the fiscal year. It's with the fiscal year that's commencing in 26, which would be the 27 fiscal year. What Joe is asking is for leeway in that to be the money is to be restricted with the timing of the payments versus with the timing of a fiscal year. Given that the payments don't start until after the project is done, that's when payments would then start, is that, shortly thereafter. And given the timeline of what is anticipated with the project, that very well could be the 28th fiscal year. So Joe is asking for leeway in when to restrict those funds, to restrict them with the timing of the payments versus with the fiscal year. Does that make sense to everybody?
I think so. I would say, so he's looking at when he's gonna start making those bond payments. I would
Correct.
say if you're not going out for a bond till September, I would think it'd be a whole other year before the new payment. the next
Correct.
Payment would be.
Mhm.
So I would say he's good for this year. He's gonna wanna make sure budgets for 26, 27 that he's budgeting for that. I would say this year he's fine.
Need to better understand this. So, Joe, what I heard you say is that of the 3 million or so that you have currently, that you were committing to a reserve, you need all or a portion of that to start the project.
Yes.
Why wouldn't you, at the time that the funds are issued on the bond, why wouldn't we then take some of those proceeds from the bond and put it back into that fund that's going to be restricted?
That's the intention.
My intent would be to, right after today's meeting, I'm gonna go to my board and ask them to reserve $3 million, specifically the bond repayment. So not earmarks it in our books, what it's intended for.
Okay.
However, with the caveat, I can borrow against it to pay these contractors and different things before time, then be reimbursed from the bond sale back to put it back after we're said and done.
Well, I think that we need to understand something. So let's say you get an $18 million bond. That bond money is only being dispersed as certain phases of the project's completed. You're not getting $18 million up front.
I don't know. What I'm asking-
There is a draw system on it. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a draw.
What I'm
Yes.
asking is,
Okay.
what's up that we're prepaying should be the design fees that we're incurring right now.
Yep.
Okay, that $800,000 to be reimbursed back as a draw back into the account to get us from 3,000, and use that 3 million as the seed, if you will, to pay those bills as they come in. So I'm paying the architecture, I'm paying the contract, I'm paying the design manager, the project manager. And then when the bonds are sold, I can reimburse ourselves back into that fund to get us back where we had, because we can use those funds for that purpose.
Correct.
But we need to be clear that it's not like you're getting, and again, I'll continue to use the 18 million. It's not like you're getting 18 million in a lump sum payment.
No,
You're getting that as certain phases of the project are completed.
Correct.
And you submit like a construction draw.
Correct.
Yeah, it's like a
Correct.
draw system.
And in order to start and complete the project, you need to have cash flow in the meantime.
exactly.
But the commitment is that by the time the first payment comes due, which means that the project should be completed,
Mhm.
that you will have used at a minimum the last $3 million or whatever's needed to fund that reserve account.
I will have that 3 million plus whatever additional monies above and beyond what we talked about from the additional funding will be in there.
Okay.
For 3 years worth.
Yep.
As soon as we identify what the bond rate is going to be and what the anticipated bond payment and interest payment are going to be, then I can budget for that and put that in the system. But right now, just a guess.
Yep.
I do need to have that working flow to be able to do without impacting our other operations that we have going on, because otherwise I can't rob Peter to pay Paul at this point. from the other
I get it.
source.
When I've done housing projects, we use the bond money to fully fund our operating reserves and our capital reserves. This is kind of the same feature. This is not unique.
It isn't, but I want to be defined. We do have at least 2 years of payment up front, and that's what we have. That's what we have right this, but $3 million we have, that's reserved. The intent is to use for the first 3 years of bond payments comes due. So that's your protection that we have the money.
But the contract calls for 3 years.
I understand that, but that's why
Okay.
I got that third year. That's the problem. It's that incremental differences I got to get. And that's what I can't wrap in current operations to get that balance, which is why that 3-year balance hopefully should be in place. I'm hoping, well, I'd like to, actually the bonds are sold and the project is done. That's when the full first payment's going to be due. And that's why I'm hoping that, you'll see the 3 years as a commitment to others are budgetary or letter of intent, but the 3 years that we have it in place.
So let's use the 3 million on the reserve as a number.
Okay?
So what I'm hearing you say is and let's say it's $1 million a year payment, just to be easy.
Sure.
So what I'm hearing you say is there'll be a minimum of $2 million in there at any given time?
Now, that 3 million it's yours. I mean, it's for that purpose. It's there for that reason.
No, I get that,
I
but
want to use it for a bank to be able to pay up my subcontractors.
the full 3 million you need available to you, or just?
I have no idea. I know I have a $816,000 bill right now for the design fees, but I need to be able to see them up front. They're gonna want X number of dollars down in draws over the span before the bonds are sold. I have to pay them.
Bottom line is by the time we're making the final draw on the bond, we'll have control as to make sure that that final release refunds or fully funds that reserve account.
Correct.
Yes. So, in a nutshell, number 7 within the agreement, budgeting, we're tweaking that language to say the road commission will include in its budget for the fiscal year of which the first principal payment is due and shall include in its budget for each fiscal year thereafter, the reserve dollars. So the only tweak to this is what we're saying is it's not necessarily going to be fiscal year that commences within 26 because 1, we may not even know the bond payments just yet because we'll have just sold the bonds.
Right.
And 2, we're not going to owe then until the project is complete, which very well could be the 28 fiscal year. We're giving ourselves that wiggle room to say those restricted funds are to be in place before the principal payment is due, but not necessarily within the 27 fiscal year because it won't be completed by then either.
I think what's important to note is in summary, this does not change the risk level
No.
of the county.
None.
No, this still requires the restricted dollars in place. So if there's ever a time a payment cannot be made, we have restricted dollars to make payments. It completely still has that in place. It's just changing the timing of that a little bit so that we have some working capital to get the project going so we don't have a delay in the project.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to be asking all the questions, guys, but
Fine.
I've traveled this road before. Do you have any other comments or questions for Joe?
If I understand it correctly, the first draw is gonna be to repay you guys. As soon as
Yes.
the bonds are sold, we can go for the draw.
Correct.
Okay, then I don't have an.
Please.
Go outside to ask their board chair if he's comfortable with everything going on, Bob.
Whatever you like.
Any comments? Good.
Just thought we should clarify this before we get to the actual vote. We have a clarification, your expectations and our expectations are on the same page.
Any verbiage changing then, our agreement?
Yeah, so what I read to you is the few words that I changed within number 7.
So the motion has to be as amended.
That would be acceptable to us.
Let me reread my motion just to make sure what I said is accurate.
Because the document you have in front of you, we are amending.
Mm-hmm. So you could add within the motion, authorizes the agreement of the road commission outlining the relationship of the county with the road commission as it relates to bonding and repayment as amended. You could just add right after that. Do you want me to read it? That the Board of Commissioners concurs with the Benzie County Road Commission to work with Hobbs and Black for architectural and design services of a new facility and authorizes the agreement with the Road Commission outlining the relationship of the county with the Road Commission as it relates to bonding and repayment as amended, an agreement subject to approval as to form by legal counsel and authorizes the chair to sign.
I'll make that motion.
Make that motion.
I'll support.
Thanks, Bob. Additional comments or questions?
And are we relying on the tape of this meeting to know what the amendment is? How it's been amended or?
Well, I've already made it. What I read to you is what I made. So I will immediately send that back to Pat McGow and say, hey, this is the section changing. And when he gives the thumbs up, I'll give it to Tammy so that Art can sign. And then it'll go to the road commission for Mr. Rosa to sign as well.
So would the packet reflect, how could somebody see the amended agreement? I mean, the public's paying close attention. to everything that we're doing.
Are you
So
willing to put the new agreement in there after Pat signed
could
off?
we do
on it?
that? So,
I'll just put them amended at the top of it when you eat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'll
Put it in
highlight,
there.
I can
Very good.
highlight that section as well.
Justin, do you want to put in your motion something about pending review of legal counsel?
Well, it does say agreement
can.
subject to approvals to legal counsel.
And Tammy, what I heard you just say is the archived copy will have the amended contract. Okay. Additional comments or questions?
Good support.
We have,
Yeah,
that's not good.
If not, roll call, please.
Nye,
yes,
Roloff,
Yes.
Sauer,
Yes.
Craig,
Yes.
Janat,
Yes.
Matthew,
Yes.
motion carried.
Congratulations.
Thanks for the hard work, folks. All right. Well, coincidentally enough, we're right at 10 o'clock.
Nice.
Let me see. All right, Mr. Curry is online. So I'll go ahead and put him into the meeting right now.
As we're bringing Steve in, I've asked Rhonda to introduce the subject and she and I will kind of tag team back and forth if we need to. But this conversation that we're having today is a result of a larger conversation we've had now probably since last fall regarding what's happening with the community mental health community and putting an RFP out for a PHIP, is that what that is? PIHP. Tim has talked to this, Rhonda's talked to this, Chip Johnston has talked to us about this. Tim contacted me late last week and asked if we would put a letter to MAC asking several questions. And most of those questions, I believe, were originated by Chip Johnston, trying to understand what MAC's motivation is to bid competitively for this PIHP. Just as an update, the courts have recently ruled that that the current language of the RFP is not acceptable. So everything's on hold right now, and any new language has to be approved by the courts. So this is just to update us on where MAC's at, and I probably gave a bigger introduction than I intended to, but anything you'd like to add, Rhonda?
well, you kind of did, but I just, for anybody new to this situation, earlier the state, MDHHS, did a bid out of the $5 billion PIHP contracts that they hold for 1 year. PIHPs are prepaid inpatient health plans. We have 10 regional entities, and the PIHPs manage the Medicaid funded services of our community mental health services. The PIHPs saw this as an attempt to privatize, and they took MDHHS to court originally on 2 premises, saying that they shouldn't be able to bid this out, and that the state was trying to reduce the number of regions from 10 to 3. In that case, the court decided that yes, the state had reduced the regions before, and they can do it now. But that the PIHP was not the entity that should challenge whether the bid out was appropriate. That had to be brought by the CMHSPs, the Community Mental Health Service Providers. So the CMHSPs brought the case saying, we're doing this well, this should not be bid out, and provided the RFP, to which the court said the RFP does not reflect what statutorily the Community Mental Health Code states it needs to. So that's where we're at. In the meantime, I think is the reason that we have Mr. Curry here. Welcome. Thank you for being here. Can you hear us?
I can. Good morning.
Okay, very good. We became aware that MAC, Michigan Association of Counties, who oversees all our counties in the state of Michigan, bid on the bid out. I guess for me as a commissioner and as one of the commissioners serving on our mental health board, that came as a surprise. And so I guess at this point, the questions that Commissioner Markey provided were made available to Mr. Curry. And I understand there was an article in the MAC, what do they put out? Their little booklet and online, just saying that MAC's intentions were to keep our services local, to provide, it was a very high level kind of, we're doing the right thing for our counties, but this is such a complex, nuanced issue that there are grave concerns on many levels of this. So we just wanted the opportunity to hear from MAC about how they did what they did and why they did what they did, I guess would be the approach.
The only thing I want to add before we turn it over to Steve is that this is in front of you today because Tim had asked if I would send out a letter to MAC with a variety of questions. And I said, we need to bring this in front of the board. I can't do this unilaterally. And as I thought about it more, Steve was gracious enough to say, look, I'll just address your group directly if you want. And so I've provided him Tim's questions in advance. So we will have an opportunity to ask questions, but I think you have anywhere between 10 and 12 questions already provided to you. Is that right, Steve?
Yeah.
All right. So unless there's other comments, Steve, the commissioners do not have those questions in front of them. All right. So if you would let them know what the question is and your response.
Yeah, sure. Just from a high level view, we share a lot of the same concerns that the commissioner brought up about privatization. So when we went through this process at the MAC board level to make the determination to respond to the bid, our intent was to protect from privatization. Number one, that's our number one concern. That's always brought up at the board level. Whenever this topic is brought up, this isn't the first time this is brought up. This is probably the furthest the department has come to doing something like this, but not the first time they attempted to do it. So our intent, number one, was to maintain local control. That's always our intent at MAC. And pretty much anything we do is to maintain local control. So we thought we were positioned in a way to do that by responding to the RFP. So going through the questions, do you want me just to read the questions and respond? Is that how you want me to do it?
It'd be helpful, yes.
Sure. Why MAC created a nonprofit foundation, filing date of May 26, 23. So yeah, we had created the MAC Foundation back in 2023 with the intent to use it as a way to bring in dollars that could be used for research, that could eventually lead to some proactive policy, things like that for the greater good of county government back in 2023. We really just had filed the paperwork on that, and it had kind of sat dormant until this past fall in October. The reason why we hadn't done much with it is we had some staff turnover that was kind of going to run point on generating funds for that foundation. Had the turnover, hadn't had the right staff back in place to kind of take the ball and run with that foundation. The next question, so it's been just kind of sitting dormant for the past few years with really no one, with the intent of really running it as a foundation. And then, of course, when this RFP came up and it requiring a 501c3 nonprofit, we had a nonprofit sitting there that we hadn't used. So we simply changed the name of that nonprofit to the MAC Behavioral Network, then use that as the mechanism to bid on the RFP. So more by happenstance than anything else that foundation had been sitting there, and then kind of changed the name of it to fit what we were doing with regards to the RFP. So the next question was the original bylaws of the MAC Foundation. We had never even gotten that far with the foundation once it was created. Had just filed the paperwork with the state and the IRS to create the 501c3. So we hadn't really never created bylaws. Why was the name changed from MAC Foundation to Enhancing Michigan Counties? Again, just kind of the evolution of, we had quickly just created the MAC Foundation back in 2023. As we were looking at developing it more, thought a better name would be Enhancing Michigan Counties, again, to generate funds for research, potential policy implementation, and that sort of thing. And then again, why was the name changed? This time the MAC Behavioral Network. I think I just touched on that. It was to fit the what we were responding to, that the MDHHS RFP. And keep in mind, everything we did was in response to MDHHS's RFP, right? We weren't advocating for MDHHS to put anything out to change the behavioral network or the system as it was right now. Any changes to the bylaws of these nonprofits? No, there's been no changes to the bylaws in these nonprofits because there aren't any bylaws at this point. So no, there's no changes. All the meeting minutes were forming a nonprofit was discussed at the MAC board. I mean, we have them. I probably can find them if you need them. I don't really know what the purpose of needing the minutes are. For either the minutes for the nonprofit or, I mean, the vote that we took to respond to the MDHHS's RFP was unanimous. It was a unanimous vote by the board to respond to the RFP. Again, we felt like we were positioned very well as a statewide entity to maintain local control, and the intent of our bid was to maintain to fit within the parameters of MDHHS RFP. So they bid out 3 different regions. We bid on all 3 regions, but our intent was, and this is in the language of the RFP, was to maintain the current network of CMHAs out there, because there is institutional knowledge there. There's consistency that is needed if we were to be awarded. That we would want to maintain that network as much as possible. Of course, the PIHPs would need to change because that's what MDHHS required in order to respond to the bid. There was a request for the actual bid that was submitted by MAC Behavioral. I'm not going to disclose that. There's been no other entities that have put out their bids that would put us at a disadvantage at this point. So I don't think we're going to release our bid. No one else has released their bid, so we're not going to do that at this point. And then says any other documents that would help explain the decision. So I talked about that, but there's really, no other documents. It was presented to the board. The board took a vote. It was unanimously supported by the MAC board.
So those are the questions that were posed to me via an email from Tim. Before I open it up for additional questions, Steve, can you explain why MAC even went down this road, why they thought they could be more effective, and what your intention was with respect to preserving the county's ability to manage?
Yeah, we definitely wanted to maintain local control. We felt like being a statewide organization that has county commissioners that are very involved in the current system in every corner of the state, we felt like we could put together a proposal that would maintain that current system as much as possible, that fit within the guidelines of the RFP. And that was purely the intent, is to maintain local control.
Let's open it up to questions. Rhonda, do you have anything in addition?
Yeah, we have a whole list of questions that were, I think, provided to our administrator. They were developed at our community mental health last board meeting that I would be interested in having Katie possibly approach if she'd be willing to do that. I guess, Steve, was there ever any discussion about getting input from the counties who you represent or from the current community mental health providers about this move? Because my understanding is that a couple of the counties, including ours, had entities formed to bid as well that were that would have represented us from our current structure.
Well, it was, as you know, the bid wasn't out there very long, so there was not a lot of time to make this decision to pivot and put ourselves in a position to bid on it. So, you know, we used our board as that sounding board, our elected board, which is, you know, geographically represents the entire state of Michigan as our sounding board on that.
So no,
Yeah, we took input from our board, yes.
from your board. Okay, and who is,
Before we leave that question, did you reach out to anybody in the CMH community?
When we were bidding on it?
When you were making the decision to pursue this?
No.
You didn't talk to anybody at the state association?
Not at the time we were bidding. Post bidding, we did, yes.
and I'm curious, who guided the board, the MAC board, I'm assuming the executive board, through this process? I mean, my understanding is there are astronomical startup costs to bid, tens of millions of dollars. I think that's one of the questions that's posed in the sheet that Katie's going to read, but you said that it was presented to you as an option for MAC to pursue. Who presented this as something that your organization, accountable to us as counties, should take action on? I mean, community mental health is a very complex organization, and Medicaid dollars, you need somebody with a certain expertise. So who thought this was a good idea?
Well, I mean, the board thought it was a good idea because they voted to support it. Ultimately, I presented it to the board. We had a partner that helped put together a bid, Raymond, who does a lot of work with CMHs across the state. And they helped put together the proposal that was presented to the board.
Is there any concern about a conflict of interest with Raymond partnering with MAC on doing this, as they are intensely involved in certain audits and certain entities, regions that are in a difficult position right now? Is there any concern about a conflict of interest?
No conflict, because there's nothing that's been awarded. We haven't been awarded anything, so we have no conflict with anyone at this point.
You want me to go through this long list of questions?
I think I would like these questions presented, and Mr. Curry's taken the time to, this seems like it would be a good opportunity.
Let's see. So the first question, the MAC Executive Board does not represent the will of the members. Why was this not a full vote of the counties?
Well, the association operates at the discretion of the MAC board. So it was a decision of the MAC board, who was elected by the counties in their regions and at large members. So that's how that decision was made.
Where are the fiscal liabilities of the counties should the 501c3 become insolvent?
There's no liability to the counties. It's a separate nonprofit.
How are the upfront costs estimated to be $40 to $100 million required in the RFP to be obtained?
Yeah, that's a good question. There's a couple of different ways we were looking at that. One was looking at an appropriation from the legislature to help do those startup costs, or some other methods we discussed is, if awarded the bid, to use some of the initial funds as a set aside to build that reserve to ensure that there was solvency.
What is the plan? What is the rapid response if awarded the bid?
I guess I'm not quite sure how to answer that. The rapid response, can you be clearer on that?
I did not draft these questions. Rhonda, do you have anything to add to
I
that?
think there are contracts in place with service providers. I mean, I think the bigger issue is service provided to the people, the most vulnerable people who receive these services. And if
Okay.
you're taking over this entity, how are you going to make a seamless transition?
Yeah, the intent would be to maintain the current network. Basically, that's, I mean, and that language is throughout our bid, is to maintain the current CMHs as they are now, to basically hire those folks that work at the PIHPs to become part of this entity, and basically to make the transition seamless for everyone involved.
Okay. Isn't this in direct competition with the Upper Peninsula and Northern Lower Peninsulas counties and the associated community mental health sponsored application Bridge Health?
I'm not familiar with who else has bid, so I don't really know.
That's a statement. If awarded, can the northern counties opt out of the MAC plan?
I don't know what the MAC plan is.
So I believe, again, I didn't write these questions, so I don't have a lot of background. I believe the thought process here is, so the RFP that MAC has put forward, if MAC was to be awarded, could the northern counties opt out and do their own thing?
Sort of a rural
I
exemption.
think that's what it means.
I guess, I don't really know. I guess that'd be kind of up to MDHHS to determine that, because they're the ones who are actually awarding the funds. So I don't know how that would work, but I guess I can't really answer that.
Okay. This one's not really a question, it's another statement.
I think we-
Okay. What is the sustainability and long-term sustainability of this organization? I believe the new nonprofit organization.
Well, I guess our intent would be that it would be sustainable. We wouldn't have done it if we didn't think it would be a sustainable option. I think if MDHHS was going to go down this road, and of course now it could be probably is a moot point. I mean, who knows what they're going to do now based on the court's decision, would be to have an organization that ultimately serves those that need it most and be flexible and, operate in a fiduciary way that would maintain the network as it is and be able to provide as much funds as possible down throughout the network.
I think the next one you've already answered a couple of times by indicating through your RFP, the idea would to maintain what is currently in place and work with the existing partners. But the question is, how will this not be a drain of mental health professionals, particularly for rural communities?
Well, I guess if we're maintaining the current network, if there's a drain in the current community, I think if you have a central entity, administrative entity, you're able to see the state in a broader fashion that would allow for funds to be able to be moved around to specific areas that may need it more than others, that may provide extra funds in areas that could add more folks in those areas that could provide services.
And I think you already asked this question, Rhonda, about conflict of interest. So I'm going to skip that as well. We have a significant concern for disruption of client services for behavioral health, including substance use disorders, should the current county-based arrangement shift to the new 501c3. That's, again, a statement, not a question.
Yeah, I mean, we do not want to interrupt any services if we were awarded any sort of bid. Again, it doesn't look like it's going to happen, but our intent was to maintain the current network as much as possible.
The next one you've already answered. Let me keep going down this list. That's again a statement. How does MAC or the new 501c3 feel that it is qualified to run large undertaking? What are its qualifications?
Yeah, I mean, I think we would be leaning on various partners, Raymond being one of them, to help us through the process. And again, by maintaining the current network as much as possible, those expertise stay in the local regions that are doing the work now. So by maintaining the current CMHs, by hiring those folks that are working for the PIHPs and providing some of those services, by maintaining that current network, those expertise remain in the local areas.
That was the last of the questions.
Yeah, I guess the final question I would have, and just curious if your board has discussed it, is one of the things that have been brought up about this are the administration costs. you know, currently there's a 3% administration cost, maybe between 3 and 4%. And it's projected that this bid out would hike that to around 15%. Is there a commitment on Mac's part to keep those administration costs to the 3 to 4% where they currently are? Has that been discussed at all?
Yeah, we talked about the administrative costs. We're nowhere near the 15%. We're much closer to the 3-4% range. Yep.
Okay. I appreciate you answering these questions. I'm sure this is going to be viewed and it is being listened to by folks who are extremely interested and concerned about what's going on, and this would be very helpful for them.
Steve, this is Art. Yesterday, I spoke to a number of other county chairs to find out their position on this. And I did not find one county that was concerned. Are you getting any comments from other counties expressing concern?
No.
Is there anything else you want to ask Steve while we have him? This is not an action item. This is information today. I know that Chip is listening in. So I hope, Chip, that this has been helpful for you also. If there's nothing else, we'll just move on to the next subject. And anything else, Rhonda?
No, nothing.
Steve, thanks for taking the time. Any last comments you want to make?
No, thanks for having me today. I hope it clears up some confusion. Again, you know, our intent is not to, this was done in response to something MDHHS did, not something we went out and tried to advocate for. Our intent was to maintain local control and support our counties as we do in a variety of ways at the association. So I hope that clears up some of the confusion. Thanks for your time today. Appreciate it.
It does. It's helpful that you were here. Before we move on to the next item, does anybody want to take a 5-minute break?
Thanks,
Sure.
Steve. Please.
I hear a lot of heads seeing a lot of heads nodding. Let's reconvene at as close to 10:30 as we can. Meeting back to order.
You're unmuted.
Thank you. And I think it's at 10:32. Katie, would you introduce the next subject under unfinished business, please?
Sure. So in front of you today is a new recommendation from the Tax Limitation Advisory Committee. As you'll recall, at one of your last meetings, you heard the recommendation from the Tax Limitation Advisory Committee related to general operating millage resets for the county as well as all the townships within Benzie County. That recommendation at the time was rejected. So therefore, we went back to the Tax Limitation Advisory Committee and had a pretty robust conversation about the recommendation itself, any other potential recommendations, as well as the kind of thought process and mindset behind why the recommendations came to be. Randy Rice is here today. He is the chair of the Tax Limitation Advisory Committee. In addition to himself, myself, as well as Kelly Long, serve on that committee with Jason Barnhard, Mandy Gray Rainier, as well as Matt Olson from the schools. And so in your packet today is a lot of information. There's the information that we've provided previously so that the community is, staying aware of kind of where we've come and where where we're from and where we'd like to go. In addition to two recommendations within the packet. One is again recommending the two-year renewal. And then in addition to that is a 4-year recommendation. The millage increases don't change. That recommendation stayed the same from the committee. And yes, we did talk about animal control as well, being lumped into that. So the request for an increase didn't change. We specifically talked about the timing. The Tax Limitation Advisory Committee really does see 2 years as the ask. But they agree that we're not going to die on the timeline mountain if we shouldn't. And so they also agreed that a 4-year would be acceptable, but they do believe the best recommendation is a 2-year recommendation for this. There was lots of reasons thrown out there for that. One of them being just trying to, one, set the expectation to the community, but two, it's an easier ask. Will you take a chance on me for 2 years versus 4 or longer? Because that then gives the county and all the townships this ability to prove themselves, so to say, that the dollars that would be increased would be used in the best possible manner to impact the community. And so Randy is here to fill in any gaps that I may have missed. Kelly's also here to fill in any gaps. But what you have in front of you is 2 separate motions. And you only need to take one motion. And then there are the documents within the packet related to the resolution of the ballot language and so forth. Did I miss anything?
You did quite well.
Randy, is there anything you'd like to add that would be helpful for us?
Well, just with the 2-year and the 4-year, like Katie had said, we put it both forward to you, decide, but again, we emphasize the 2 years. Just political climate today, untrust, public not knowing the details behind the scenes, if you will, how things are. But there's just a lot of discourse related to government at the moment. And 2 years would be better, in our opinion, to let people see that, yes, this is better than we're going to be stuck with something for 4 years. So that was the gist of the meeting that we had.
Does the commissioners have any questions either for Kelly or Randy or even Katie, because she sat in those meetings too?
I have a couple, and I watched your YouTube video. You guys look good on TV. Anyway, you talked about lumping some in, animal control. Are they lumped in?
As of today or as of the recommendation?
As of this recommendation, if it goes any further,
Yes.
because I'm not.
So the lumping in or the bundling or all the terms that it's been given really relies on this board. So the Tax Advisory Committee, they're making recommendations to you. They're saying, we believe you should increase this and also throw in these smaller millages into that increase. So that's their recommendation. That's up to this board to carry that through. And so the recommendation is SRO, it is drug enforcement or TNT, it is animal control, those being lumped in with this increase. So then the net increase is actually much smaller to the community because those smaller ones would end up falling off the tax bill. Animal control, for instance, that one expires with this levy. So that one falls off no matter what. The TNT and the SRO, they still have another year, but the intent would be that if this general operating increase goes into effect, we're not levying those levies. They would be set at zero. Very similar to what we did a couple of years ago when we went out to the community. We said we would lower these levies. We would only take what we need. And we did that with the school resource officer and with the different TNTs and those other things. So that would be what we would do again is, if approved, when you adopt that L4029 late this summer, early fall, on that document, it's going to show levy 0 next to those ones that are still on the active tax bill, because we would fund those through any sort of reset that would be approved by the community.
When the ballot language, is this gonna be explained?
No, you're not
Okay.
allowed to.
Well, that's part of my concern.
It's my concern too.
Yeah, because the public's gonna say, well, they're at it again.
So,
Yeah.
so in your packet, you have a resolution. That resolution specifically says the ballot language that Tammy would put on the ballot. That's what we're allowed to put on the ballot. So any education to the community, anything else to the community to help explain this reason and this why is up to us to share through educational, forums and any one-pagers we can put out. As you know, we've put out 1- and 2-pagers in the past to share in the community. That's going to be up to all of us to explain to the community why this is a need. What you see in the packet in the resolution, that's what we're allowed to put on the ballot.
Cause yeah.
I have high expectations for all of you in your educational forums that you're going to give to your constituents.
Okay, thank you for.
And no matter what the subject matter is, the ballot language is always confusing.
It is, it's very unfortunate.
I mean, as an example, we had one ballot language that talked about funding the DDA in Frankfurt, and everybody thought that meant that everybody in the county was funding the DDA.
Correct. When in reality, they're not.
Unfortunately, it doesn't spell it out, but yeah.
It'd be nice if we could tweak it a bit more on the ballot, right? But we're not. We're limited to what we can say and how we say it. It is approved by legal counsel as to what is put on the ballot. And so it's really where we all come in, and we're answering those questions for the community as to the need and the intent. But as far as, getting rid of or not levying those millages, that's where that falls to you as this body, because it is your responsibility to set those levies every year on that L4029 when we adopt our budgets. So that'll be up to the 7 of you to make sure that happens. And that'll be my recommendation to you.
Okay. And should we move forward on this, there's a lot of education that has to take place.
Correct.
And we would anticipate that there'll be a plan put together so we know here are the steps that we're following.
Correct.
And Katie, if I remember right, you're trying to recruit an intern that would focus just on this.
Yes, we're working on recruiting an intern, paid, some sort of seasonal part-time / intern person to make this their project. In addition to that, last week at the conference I was at, we had a few sessions specifically on communication, public engagement surrounding millages and taxes and such. And so I sat through those, and I met with the speakers after the trainings, and they're going to help me and provide some, graphics and informational pieces that we can modify to meet Benzie's needs so we can start getting this into the community.
Other questions or comments, Christy?
Oh, I was in camp 4. I was in camp 4. And it sounds like the tax advisory is clearly in camp 2. I don't necessarily want to go against that. This is, we tasked you with that. I'm understanding. My concern, again, with the 4 years is that it's going to keep or the 2 years, it's going to keep coming up every 2 years. And that seems like a lot. So I understand what you're saying about at least give it 2 years to give it a turn, if you will, see how folks like it. Would we have an option to increase that at a later time?
I believe so. I believe it would come back to the committee and then we would recommend it to the board and then
Yes.
go on from there.
Yes.
My understanding of how that worked. Doesn't mean in 2 years, we're not going to recommend 2 years, but we may recommend 4 because the way, everything's so fluid in politics, could change. And then there you are with 4 years now. You just don't know. It's a gamble no matter what you do. It's up to the voter to decide if they want, 2 years. If they reject it, well, then we know, well, they don't want 2, maybe they want 4. And we go that route. So just a way to try it and see what the response is from the community.
The upside to a 2-year renewal is that you can reset faster.
That was the other comment I was going to make, was reset would be quicker. You wouldn't have the rollback every 4 years. You only have it for 2. So you would have virtually the same amount of money every other year without increasing the millage.
Appreciate the
He always
comment.
brought up a good point about this is the voters are looking at it every 2 years thinking, well, at least they seem to be up front here. So can go either way. Everybody likes the stability of a longer term. But is that the right thing to do with this? This is coming out of people's pockets. Every dime we take out of the public is money they can't spend. So that's how I look at things all the time. Who makes the better decision, the public or the government? So we'll take it from there. The only other thing I wanted to bring up before I forget, by doing what we did with the indefinite part, eliminating that indefinite part, this doesn't pass, nobody's funded. Am I
Correct.
correct?
That is correct.
So public's gonna look at that, in my opinion, as another government mistake. So I don't know how to, not that the indefinite was the right thing to do, but I never like putting anybody in a position, we're gonna do this to you if you don't do this and that. So I'm a little concerned about that aspect, is what it is.
Gary, I'd respond to that. Honestly, I think that was the necessary move, the first step here. We were only one of 3 remaining counties that had language that said indefinite, and we hadn't revisited this subject for nearly 40 years. Although it appears to create greater risk, I believe that financially there was greater risk by not addressing it at all. I would also say that with respect to the 2 years, I'm not totally convinced that the voter will make a decision one way or the other based on term. I think they're going to be more interested in how much is this going to cost me? But I am really reluctant to put together a talented group of people that put the time in that you put in and then ignore your recommendation. For me, I'm unwilling to do that,
Sure.
even though I feel differently.
Yeah. And there was, another comment was from my buddies I've talked to about it. They bring up the tax bill snafu that happened, and it's just another show of distrust to government. The road commission, the word's now starting to get out that they have their money. Where'd they get their money from? Sitting here listening to the commissioner or the road commission, I understand how it worked. I understand why they did what they did. But the average person at home, they don't see that. They just see, well, now they got the money all of a sudden. Why did they come to us to begin with? They don't need the money because they have it. And there's other small instances like that. And that was one of the main reasons why I chose 2 years and the board chose 2 years also. It's
Yeah.
all a perception.
It
It
is.
really is. It's what the public perceives, and right or wrong, it's how it is.
So that's where we all come into play to reassure the community that, our intentions are good and that we want to serve the community to the best of all of our abilities. there's a lot of good people who work for Benzie County, and all of us are just looking to do what's best for the community and to improve any service that could be given to the community. And so, you know, we're hopeful that over the next several months, you know, we're able to create advocates to support Benzie, you know, folks that understand and see that Benzie County, you know, serves a role in our community. You know, many people see the county as the provider of last resort, and really, in a lot of ways, that is what we do, but we do a lot of good things for the community as well. You know, road patrol and animal control and MSU extension and, you know, Betsy Valley Trail. We have great people with the Betsy Valley Trail helping us to improve those public sites for our community. And, you know, we do that with the support of our community. And so it's up to us to, you know, gain additional supporters of our community that see the benefit of what we're trying to do, see the potential of what we're trying to do. You know, it's important work that we're providing, and we want to make sure that the community also sees it as important work, and that they understand that the reason that we're doing what we're doing is, one, this is the only ability we have to provide those services through those kind of dollars. But two, it's for the better of our community as a whole. We all want to live and work and play in a great place. And to do that, yes, there's grants and other dollars out there, but they're not the primary source of income to do those great things in our community. It is the way the system was set up, is through a tax system. And so if we want to continue to do great things in Benzie County and improve our public spaces and enhance services, this is the way to do it.
So as it's been said repeatedly, education is going to be extremely important.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to spend a good deal of your time with each of the commissioners making visits to specific groups.
Mm-hmm. It's going to be fun.
If we're purposely suggesting it go on the August ballot so that if it does fail, we can make another run at it in November without asking for the same thing in all likelihood. We would just ask probably for renewal, but
Yes.
I don't want to speak to that too soon.
Yes.
Other questions or comments? Would anybody be comfortable in, you've been given two options here, promotions, or you can create your own if you like. And I'm not trying to discourage further conversation, but if you're ready to act on it, let's do that.
Could I ask one thing?
Mhm.
If we're gonna go with the original 2-year recommendation, looking at the first of the two things I heard, it says we're basically rejecting the 4-year recommendation or 4-year term and accepting the 2-year.
Correct.
Do we even have to say that if we're taking the original term and just instead just say a board of commissioners accepts the recommendation of the 2-year term to reset without even having to?
You do have to say that because one, you officially did reject it last time. So this is this is a new 2-year recommendation.
Gotcha.
And because there was a 2-part recommendation by the tax advisory committee, you do have to reject the 4-year if you're intending for the 2-year.
Gotcha.
Because there technically was a 2-part recommendation.
We didn't even vote on it. How did we reject it?
You officially you officially reject it and send it back to the committee. That was your rejection, was to send it back to the committee.
Voted on. We did was.
Yeah, we voted on it.
I believe we
You had to vote on it. You voted on it. Yeah.
I know you don't have. Just don't recall voting.
No, it's good to know. Thank you.
But it was last meeting, right? Or was it December?
It had to be
Last meeting.
December.
It was one of the times.
It was it was
We
someday.
had too many of these.
It must have been December. Yeah.
Was, and I do remember the fact that we rejected it and sent it back to the committee.
Okay, so the December 9th meeting is last year.
That's only a month ago.
Less than a month ago.
It's being funny.
Might have been in study session.
What resolution is this, Tammy?
7.
I don't want to roadblock Katie from continuing to do the research, but Gary, does the outcome of whatever research is, does that change your?
No, I just didn't know if the wording was, if we're gonna accept, depends on what we do. That's.
Okay.
No, just,
Either one, we reject something and accept something else, no matter what.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, I agree with you. Agree with Art as well. I watched the meeting as well, and I thought it was compelling conversation that you had. I was in the 4-year camp too, and you made me reconsider my position a little bit. I am in support of supporting your first recommendation. So
So December 9th, the motion by Tim Markey, seconded by Len Matthew to specifically decline the tax advisory recommendation and send it back to the tax advisory committee. Motion carried.
all right.
So you
Thank-
declined rather than rejected, but
I'm getting old. I don't remember.
I believe that means the same thing.
Thank you.
Is anybody ready to make a motion?
Absolutely.
Lynn, please.
Make a motion that the Board of Commissioners rejects the recommendation for a 4-year term and accepts the recommendation of a 2-year term to reset the general operating rate for Benzie County and all townships to 4.4399, 1.21, and 0.1828 respectively, and adopts resolution 2026-7. Thank you. Resolution approving ballot language to alter and extend the general operating millage for the county, townships, and intermediate school district.
Can I get support?
Craig will second.
I'd open it up to additional comments or questions. Hearing none, roll call, please.
Roloffs,
Yes.
Sauer,
Oh,
Trigg,
Yes.
Janat,
Yes.
Matthews,
Yes.
Nye,
yes.
motion carried.
Thanks for all your hard work, Randy.
thank you, Randy.
Okay. A lot more discussion to come on that down the road.
Yes. Yep.
Sure of that.
Katie, we're moving on to new business. Would you introduce the first item?
Yes, so this morning, the county treasurer, Callie Long, gave a recap as to kind of what's going on with the different class action settlements within the state of Michigan related to unclaimed proceeds and foreclosures. So what is in front of you today is a budget amendment to really support what she was talking about this morning related to the different payments and such that have to go up. And so we need approval from this board for $40,000 to fund those payouts. This money's within the fund. It just wasn't budgeted as needed. And so what we're doing is we're recognizing the budgeted use of fund balance and the expenditure. So the funding is already there.
And this goes back to your earlier conversation, right, Kelly?
That's correct. These are just the class action opt-outs. So there's 5 opt-outs from the normal Wayside Church. They opted out. They wanted to see if they could do better. They went as far as they could go. They're done. We have settled 2. We've got 3 more that are, I believe, are real close. We just looking for signatures from the people, and then we'll get those paid out as well.
Is there any questions on this?
Just one, you said the attorneys go up. Watch. Oh.
Yes, be better.
It's, do the ones that use an attorney end up getting more out of these settlements?
No. I mean,
Just
to
curious.
do this one, there was one that got 107%, I think. Just one got a little bit more, and the rest of them went with what they had, and we just wanted to wrap it up and finish it off. So we as me and my attorney discussed it, and I said, let's just do it and move on. It was like a $2,000 difference, $2,000 more.
In layman terms, the previous property owner is simply getting the benefit of any surplus on a sale. And
That
then
is
if an
correct.
attorney gets involved, the attorney will keep 1/3 to 1/2 of whatever's collected. And that's why you're saying, let's let the previous property owner make their claim themselves.
Correct. Going forward. Yeah.
Based on Raffaele, how far back did the court say people could go to make claim? 2013?
Yes.
Okay.
That's the date I'm coming, 2013-14, I think.
And this is 2 claims that are being settled?
These are 5.
These are 5 claims that are being.
These are opt-out ones.
Okay.
They opt out of the original first claim, thinking that they could do better.
Okay.
And it did not go in that direction for them. So at this point, they have exhausted everything they can do at the court level. So now we are paying them out. And I've set aside, I had some money set aside, but I wasn't quite sure how that was all going to work. I know next year we'll have to budget better because we'll be paying out a lot next year. But that's why I'm asking for this amendment so I can finish those last 3 payouts that are going to be coming.
Now I make the motion that the Board of Commissioners authorizes a budget amendment in the amount of $40,000 to fund payouts related to class action settlements associated with foreclosure.
Trigg will second.
Additional comments or questions? If not, roll call, please.
Sauer,
Yes.
Trigg,
Yes.
Janat,
Yes.
Matthews.
Yes.
Nye,
Yes.
Roloff.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kelly. I'm gonna ask you to introduce the next subject. Do we have anybody in the audience that's gonna participate in this?
Perhaps if there's questions.
Okay.
So the next 2 items are related. They're both related to the Betsy Valley Trail and the improvements of the trail. We do have 2 representatives here from the Friends of Betsy Valley Trail who can answer any questions or add to the conversation if necessary. But what we need from you today is support for resolutions for grant applications to the state of Michigan. These grant applications were also sent to the Betsy Valley Trail Management Council, of which Gary sits on too. But in a nutshell, we're here to support. The Friends are not asking for any financial commitment of the county at this time. These would all be through different fundraisers and donations they've been able to obtain in addition to any potential grant dollars. One of the grants is pending on the TAP program, and that grant was sponsored through our Benzie County Road Commission. And then the other ones are through the state, as I said, the Trails Natural Resources Trust Fund and the Passport Grant Program. We do have Heidi and Jim here if there's any additional questions related to these projects.
Because you've taken the time to attend, is there anything you'd like to add?
And if you do, please come to the podium.
And for the record, identify yourself.
Sure. I'm Heidi Bolger, president of the Friends of Betsy Valley Trail. And of course, you know Jim, he's part of the Trailways Management Committee and also working on contract with us to do many good things for the trails. I guess what I'd like to add is in terms of projects, so one of the resolutions is to apply for a $400,000 trust fund grant as a matching grant to fund the conditional commitment we have from TAP, the Michigan Department of Transportation, for the 6.3 miles that we talked to you about a year ago. So we have a conditional commitment. In order to meet the match on that, we'll use Friends funds, and then we want to go after this trust fund grant, which we're so delighted. Thank you for completing your rec plan, because the county would be the applicant. We have to have a governmental body who's the applicant for that grant. So that's one application we'll submit in April. Just FYI, we are submitting an additional TAP grant for 4.1 miles. So think about from Beulah, 1 mile we got paved, 6.3 we have a conditional commitment. There's another 4.1 miles that we need to get a TAP grant, and we'll in the future look for a trust fund grant. And then we have about a mile coming from Thompsonville toward Beulah that we got approval from the trust fund for a grant. The legislature still has to give its final blessing on that, but hopefully we'll see some construction this year if the stars all line up, and we do have matching money for that. And so then the other one that Katie mentioned, I just wanted to send this around for anybody who hasn't seen that. There's also an accessibility project, and so that would be a recreation passport grant that we also wanting to submit in April. And that's at River Road. There's a parking lot there, services the boating community. People use that to get on the trail. And so we've worked with the boating people from DNR to come up with a concept of what would be workable to replace the bathroom facility there and put in a couple handicap accessible parking spots in addition to improving the lot. So that would help people who are mobility challenged to be able to access the trail. There's another small parking enhancement at the Alberta end, which the village is enthused about, that would connect to where the parking lot is when you go between Frankfurt and Alberta. People park there to access the trail. So there'd be a paved section there that would also help for people who, again, have the challenges of getting their maybe adaptive equipment out of their van and being able to access the trail. So that's project number 2. And so in terms of applications this year, the TAP grant, which the Road Commission has provided a resolution for, will submit in February, and then 2 more grant applications in April, one being a trust fund grant, the 400,000 connected to the 6.3 miles, and then another application for 91,000 you'll see in the resolution that relates to the accessibility project. And so we're super excited to keep this process going, and so we can see fully paved trail between here and Thompsonville, and then also do this accessibility project, which we think will be very meaningful. And Jim's been rounding up a lot of good support letters. People seem to be definitely enthused about where we're headed.
Is there questions for Heidi?
Just have one. You talked about paving over in Alberta. You're talking about directions, right? Kind of on the south side of 22 or in Penfold Park?
South side, where
side,
that
little spot?
parking lot is,
Okay.
it's just paving a couple spots in that lot.
Oh, couples. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. I wasn't sure.
Other questions or comments? Heidi, the only question I would have, and I ask this each time we talk about paving the trail, is for economic reasons, being able to run snowmobiles on that from here to Thompsonville is important. And I know that the first phase of that, you made sure that we could. Is that going to continue, that we'll be able to run sleds on there?
Yes, we're not limiting that.
Okay. Good. If there's no other comments or questions, you have a motion in front of you?
So there is technically 2 motions because we're adopting the resolution separately according to the grant requirements. The other thing with the grant requirements is, and I know this is kind of different than what we normally do, but we do have to ask if there's any public comment related specifically to the grant applications.
Okay.
I'll be happy to make the motion. Wish you hadn't made it so long, but yeah.
Gary, I think, do we need to have the record reflect that we opened it up to public comment?
We have to do that first.
You could, it's up to you. We could do it now or when the motion is made. We just have to have the record reflect.
Make your motion, Gary.
I move that the Board of Commissioners authorizes a grant application in partnership with the Friends of the Betsy Valley Trail to the Michigan Department of Natural Resources Trust Fund in the amount of $400,000 with match dollars provided by the Friends of the Betsy Valley Trail, adopting the related resolution of support, and authorizes the county administrator to sign necessary document.
Roll up support.
Any additional comments from the commissioners?
Just one, that the Betsy Valley Management Council supports this, and the Parks and Rec from Monday supports both applications.
Any comments or questions from the public? Let the record reflect that we opened it up to public comment. If not, we'll call for the vote. I believe that's roll call.
Trigg,
Yes.
Janat,
Yes.
Matthews,
Yes.
Nye,
Yes.
Roloff.
Yes.
Bauer.
Yes.
Motion carried.
And then, so there's an additional motion, and this one is specific to the passport program.
This is the TAP grant,
No.
second one, or?
The first one was trust fund. This is passport. We did TAP
Oh,
a year ago.
passport.
Okay. All these names.
All right, I'll make that one too, if you don't mind. That the Board of Commissioners, I move that the Board of Commissioners authorizes a grant application in partnership with the Friends of the Betsy Valley Trail to the Michigan Department of Natural Resources Passport Program in the amount of $91,000 with match dollars provided by the Friends of the Betsy Valley Trail, adopting the related resolution of support, and authorizes the county administrator to sign necessary document.
9 seconds.
I'll open it up to the commissioners first about questions or comments. Hearing none, I'll turn to the public. Questions or comments? Again, let the record reflect that we opened it to the public, and we'll call for the vote.
Not
Yes.
Matthews,
Yes.
Nye,
Yes.
Roloffs.
Yes.
Sauer,
Yes.
Craig,
Yes.
motion carried.
All right, thank you, folks. Really appreciate your volunteerism. You know, in this community, we rely so heavily on volunteers because we don't have paid staff to do these things. And I know that you guys take it so seriously. So thank you much. Katie, do you want to introduce item E, please?
Yes, so the next item on your packet is the professional services agreement with GIS and mapping services, Caligo. I believe that I'm saying it right now after a couple of years. It's not Cooligo, it's Caligo. And so you heard the director, Corey Ellis, gave a great review of them this morning. In addition to the central dispatch side of things, we also have great response from our equalization department, as well as John Troop at the Conservation District, who's now working with them to create the Benzie County Zoning Atlas with a commitment from this board as well. We have been with Caligo now, this would be the 4th year. The services have been great, and I can tell you the cost that they charge to us is far less than it would be if we had to hire a GIS analyst for Benzie County.
Jim, excuse me, Jim.
Forgot your
You got
cup.
a cup.
So this,
Sorry, Katie.
that's okay. This is definitely the best bang for the buck that we can receive. The program is great. I get a lot of good feedback from folks in the community who have hopped on our mapping services on our website. They love the improvement from a couple of years ago. And we will have new aerials going on there very soon as well. They did flyovers just this last year through the MySail program. So we'll have all new aerials on there coming soon as well. So our recommendation as staff is to extend this for another year. I know you'll ask, why aren't we doing more than 1 year at a time? Caligo operates in an annual fashion because the world of GIS could change so much that it just makes sense to evaluate each year the need and decide from there.
Before we open it up to comments or questions, is there a motion that someone would like to make?
Trig moves that the Board of Commissioners authorizes a 1-year extension to the service agreement with Caligo GIS for GIS services, including parcel data and aerial mapping maintenance, central dispatch mapping, and as-needed services in the amount outlined in the proposal from Caligo dated January 7th, 2026. And that the chair be authorized to sign with funds available in the general fund and the central dispatch fund.
Matthew Sports.
Thank you. Now I'll open it up to questions or comments,
I do.
please.
So we've been with them for 4 years, and I know that I've been in the budgeting process, but I don't remember, but why don't we include that in our budgeting process?
What do you mean? We include the
It says,
dollars.
and they haven't been budgeted.
Where?
Right above the recommendation. This will be the 4th year we work with Caligo for these services, and they haven't been budgeted.
That is my mistake. They have been budgeted.
Okay. Okay.
Sorry. Apparently I was typing
Okay,
way too
like-
fast. It is in the budget.
Okay.
It's definitely in the budget.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Well, in the second paragraph, it does says we have budgeted within the respective budget.
So I typed it twice.
Yeah.
It was an off day.
Great.
Okay.
Fair question. Any other comments or questions? If not, roll call, please.
Matthews,
Yes.
Nye,
Yes.
Roloffs.
Yes.
Sauer,
Yes.
Craig,
Yes.
Not,
Yes.
motion carried.
Katie, you spoke directly to a representative from the tribe on this next request. Do you want to speak to that, please?
Yes, so as you know, the Grand Traverse Band of Ottawa and Chippewa Indians opened the Crystal Shores Casino over on Hoadley Road about a year ago now. And at that time, Mr. Petoskey, their legal counsel, had come before the board and kind of explained what was happening and showed the plans. And since then, we've had a meeting also with the tribal council, just working to continue to grow that relationship with the county and the tribe. They approached me yesterday. I was on a call with them yesterday related to the casino regarding our letter of support to maintain the operation of the casino. So from the federal level, they have received notice related to the casino operations, needing some certain things in place to continue the operation of the casino under the Tribal Lands Act. I won't pretend to know all the things there is to know about the Tribal Lands Act, But from my understanding is they had this first kind of year go around, and now there's some, proving that they have to do to the federal level to continue that operation there. And so part of that whole argument to the federal level to maintain the Crystal Shores Casino in Benson County involves letters of support from the community, that it's not a burden on the community, that it's economically helping the community and things like that. And so what you were given was a letter of support on behalf of the county to give to the tribe for them to submit it with their documentation at the federal level to maintain the Crystal Shores Casino operation in Benson County. I was in your email yesterday. And so they have a deadline of today. They actually emailed me this morning saying, what time are you thinking? Because they have to submit everything by 5 o'clock today. And so that is why it is of a quick turnaround. And I appreciate you amending the agenda. I have not heard bad things about the casino. I've heard good things about the casino. I know they also spoke with Sheriff Rosa, who also said from a sheriff's office law enforcement standpoint, there's been no negative impact on the community. And so from my perspective, it's been an enhancement to our community. It's also opened doors of conversation regarding natural gas and other things within the community. And so from my perspective, it's been an enhancement, but that I will leave that decision upon to this body on whether or not they agree to sign that letter of support.
And should we move forward, have you crafted any language for us?
I did not craft language, but I have a letter and I can craft it on the fly.
Okay.
Thank you.
Is there any questions, any comments anybody wants to make on this request?
It was a very well-written letter.
So an appropriate motion could be that the Board of Commissioners authorizes a letter of support for the Grand Traverse Band and the Crystal Shores Casino operation in Benzie County.
Make that.
And
Yes.
authorizes the chair to sign. Sorry.
Chair to sign.
Bob supported.
Yep.
Other comments or questions? If not, roll call, please.
Nye,
Yes.
Roloffs.
Yes.
Sauer,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
Janai,
Yes.
Oh. Matthews.
Yes.
Motion carried.
All right, you'll recall that we added to the agenda a committee appointment for the Health Department. Gary, I think what you're doing is asking that we follow our rules that don't require us to do an interview on this. If it's a reappointment, is that right?
Yes. And I'd be happy to make the motion to reappoint Dr. Kuiper to the Health Department. Board,
Is that a 3-year term?
believe so.
Trig will second.
Additional comments or questions?
I know he has difficulty sometimes making these meetings. That's because of his job, but he's been a real asset to that board. We can keep him. I would like.
I would agree.
All right, if there's no other comments or questions, we can do this on voice vote.
Roll.
Thank you.
Roloffs,
Yes.
Sauer,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
Janai,
Yes,
Matthews.
Yes.
Nye,
Yes.
motion carried.
very good. So we'll communicate to Dr. Kuiper.
Yep, we
All
can.
right, commissioner reports. Let's start with Rhonda today. Hearing nothing.
That's
Village of Beulah, big news was a $1 million award from Jack Birdman's office. That puts the total of granted or appropriated money for their new sewer system up to $4 million technically, which is a third of their project. So that's good news. Benzonia Township, they have a new website up and running, benzoniatownship.gov. There was a presentation at the meeting, lots of discussion about links and putting info on, and they made their donation to the 2026 skating rink. They throw, I believe, $1,000 towards that. And the old building is still available, and they are researching commercial realtors to market that. Building and Grounds met, big discussion about the emergency tower in Frankfurt, and a question regarding whether or not a contract with a phone provider was in line with our contract with Frankfurt, and we have Matt looking into that, correct?
Mm-hmm.
there's a heating and cooling issue in our dispatch office. We're in a holding pattern right now. It may have improved, fingers crossed. Maintenance barn, we're pivoting on that. We awarded that contract to resheet that and all that. The contractor is non-responsive right now, and we are pivoting to explore a shared barn between our maintenance providers and the sheriff's department, which would be bigger and just house everything they all need. I had the MAC Health and Human Services Board. There was a presentation from MDHHS Rural Health Transformation Fund, which Michigan has allocated 173 million in Michigan for Medicare. Medicaid grants. This translates to $83 per rural resident. I attended Benzonia Township, the court case with Forerunner. The judge decided against what Benzonia hoped for. They decided in Forerunner's favor, which essentially voided the Baldwin Provisions permit to sell there. So they were initially found in a nuisance per se ordinance violation, which in effect voided their permit to operate there. Listened to the tax allocation meeting. I met with Art and Scott Harrison to discuss some Maples issues and go over their fiscal position a little bit closer. And Art and I did our own agenda review because Katie was at conference this week, and that's all I have. That was pretty quick, right?
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't even take a breath.
One page.
I know.
Are you sure that's your report? Can I ask her one question?
Sure.
What do you know about the skating rink snafu up here in Benzonia?
Boy. The snafu. I don't know anything about it.
Okay.
What should I know?
I'll bring it up later. I understood that they had a lot of volunteers that helped shovel the snow off of the skating rink, and somebody says, well, why aren't you using a plow? And it must have been discussed at somebody's dinner table. And they put a plow on there and they tore the whole thing up by mistake.
Oh, no.
But they're fixing it. It's just,
Well, ice is forming fast these days,
well,
so.
it should have. I couldn't believe that
I appreciate that. My meeting is next Monday. I'm sure that will be
Because-
discussed.
that was always plowed. If I remember correctly, Tom,
By somebody else, apparently.
I think Mr. Reinier and Tom Hopkins used to maintain that. I just thought, that seemed odd to me. I don't know what happened.
It'll make my list next
Okay.
next meeting.
I think the Cottage Pros took over at some point too, right?
I think they're helping, yeah. I don't
Mhm.
know.
Any other questions for Rhonda? And Rhonda, just one for me. Benzonia Township has now been in their new building, maybe 2 or 3 months. Has that been well received by the public? Do you know?
I don't know. I mean, I attend all the meetings. It's a big room. It hasn't increased, I don't believe, their amount of attendance. I'm not sure. I'm not sure how it's been received.
Christie?
So the local materials management committee was canceled for January. We're still trying to decide if we're going to reschedule or just wait again until April. Or is it March? April. Let's see, City of Frankfurt, a couple things on their agenda that day. Yeah. So a couple things. So they have they're trying out a social district, and which is where you can have a beverage as you walk around the streets of Frankfurt, sipping your beverage, going from place to place. But yeah, anyway, I think it's just certain areas you can walk in on the street. I don't think you can like go into another business with your beverage, but you can socialize out on the sidewalk or whatever. So, couple things. So first, this was supposed to, it was brought up because they wanted to extend it. They wanted to make it a bigger a bigger district. And one of the folks on there was mentioning, well, I thought that this was a a trial. So why would we extend the trial? But they did. So the social district has been extended in Frankfurt. Another thing that was on there was Dune Ridge. So that's the property as you turn the corner down to going to Alberta from Main Street. If you turn that corner there, and it's there's that big sign there. Anyway, so they're moving forward with that. People are asking for more parking spaces because one thing is it's difficult, right? Because that's there's not a lot of parking in that area. So they're asking for more parking. There is concern because people in Dune Ridge will actually have access to like the marina across the way as well. So they're concerned about, people parking their boats there and whatnot. And so that's something that the people who are actually managing the place will have to do. But right now it's just the developers. And so the developers are like, okay, we'll put in some more parking lot. We're putting some more parking. Another concern is the fire trucks getting in there. There's 2 parking spots. There's one down below and one above. And so their concern is that turn in there, and then will the trucks be able to turn around? So they're trying to work through some of that. But that did pass at that meeting. So a lot of things going on. They're paying for the pickleball court. And so I also talked about how they're doing this thing where if you do improvements on small apartments or small rentals, but they're long-term rentals, that you can get tax abatement for that. And they're like the first in Michigan to do it. I talked about that so they put a policy in place because one thing that they were noticing, because when you apply for this, you have to have your paperwork practically perfect in every way. And so the clerk was spending a lot of time kind of going back and forth, making sure that people were at least filling them out to the point where the council could say yay or nay, not just, no, you didn't fill the form out correctly. So they put a timeline on that so that people would be submitting that a little earlier so that, and kind of putting and then paying for the clerk's time to go through that and sending it back because she was spending a lot of time on that. So they did that. Crystal Lake Township. Let's see. Not a lot went on. Well, no, that's not true. So budget was the big thing that they did at Crystal Lake Township. And there was a bit of discussion too on compensation. So I think everybody more or less agrees that wages should be increased, but then some of the trustees were like, well, I don't know about us. So anyway, so they're going to have to think about that if they're going to, if that's going to pass or not, I'm not sure. But anyway, they've got a separate budget meeting for that February 18th at 5:30, which is going to be just before our normal meeting. And they are working on their master plan. And so they need to work on their master plan, and then they need the airport overlay. So Crystal Lake Township has been kind of tasked with that duty. And one of the public comments is an airport overlay is going to really affect businesses around that overlay because again, in an overlay, is what the person said, is you kind of want to restrict how many people can be in that area, right? For safety reasons. And so anyway, that was the public comment on that, is that an overlay will really affect businesses inside that overlay. And then again, the airport authority was canceled Thursday night. And so, yeah, I just went to 2 meetings because the other 2 were canceled.
Any questions for Christy?
The tax abatement thing,
Yes.
that's handled by the city?
So what happens is, it kind of goes through the city and I think I talked about this last time. And so the city says yay or nay, and then it goes to a state committee and the state committee says yay or nay too.
They have the final say.
The state has the final say, yes.
Kind of odd that the local authority be able to do that.
Well,
don't-
because too, it does affect the city as well.
You
And
know
so,
what percentage of taxes they're foregoing? If it's approved? Not all of them, I'm sure.
no,
Typically, they don't do 100%.
No,
payment.
no,
I think
No.
it's not.
Yeah.
And I wrote down the PA number last time and I didn't bring it, I didn't think about it right now. So I don't have that PA number, but it's a relatively new resolution, I guess, from the state. And apparently City of Frankfurt was one of the first to go with it. Yeah.
The pilot,
I don't think they're a pilot, but they're the first to,
they are the first.
okay, yes.
Have they
I-
approved any yet?
Yes, yes, they have.
Yeah.
Yes. So that's kind of when I talked about several months ago. I think it was in October, November. That whole meeting was about that. And so yes. And a few more are trickling in, but there's a window where it's open and then it closes and then you can't do it again until next year. Yeah, they're giving it a turn.
Questions or
Yes, thank
comments
you.
for Christie?
Mhm.
Beat you to it, Art.
Yeah, do you remember the PA number?
No.
No, that's okay.
I could find it in my email, but
Yeah,
not offhand.
I know. I've got it in my
It's a
report
PA
somewhere.
number though.
Yeah.
Gary, are we to you?
I thought you were working on Bob.
He'll get his chance.
Okay, you got my report. I don't know if there's any questions in there. I just wanna say at the Benzie bus, I think that situation is handled correctly. And the other thing, Benzie bus got a grant for a building. And they're gonna put up a pole building to house their, did I put that in there? I don't know. To house their buses, which honestly, anytime you can keep your vehicles out of the weather, saving your vehicle. So I think it was a great idea. Pretty much everything else was the same. Senator's Bumstead's grant for Alberta was huge. Hopefully it'll be taken care of correctly and they gave a GIS tutorial from Fleece and Vanderbrink. Now all you gotta do is make sure somebody knows how to use it, because you can do a lot of things with it. The last thing was the Parks and Rec. It was last Monday. The DNR has basically approved the plan at the Crystal Lake Outlet with two stipulations. One of them is they want it named as a boat launch because that's what it was originally purchased for, which no big deal. You just do the name. The other thing, they want separation from the trail. They want, whether it's just some sort of fence or
Fence. What?
not a fence, but just,
Isn't the tree buffer enough?
no.
Oh,
This was because I guess it's because it's a boat launch. They want that there, and
well, but it's not gonna
Yeah.
be a boat launch in that location.
Mr. Johnson believes that if we run out of money, we don't have to take care of it. I remember some of the things with the DNR. In fact, the village of Thompsonville was one of them. You will take care of it. If they ask you to do it, you will do it. I don't know where the funding's gonna come from, but I would not spend the money and thinking you're gonna walk away from it. They were just talking possibly a split rail fence just for aesthetics. I don't want,
But it doesn't have to be a fence. What does the wording
That was-
actually say?
well, I'd
Or
have to
you
get.
don't know,
Ron-
yeah.
Yeah, but the way he explained it, it had to be some sort of fence,
A barrier?
Even though it's not a
just to
boat.
keep it separate, because it's not really part of this,
So like a sign wouldn't cut it.
No. Is the way it was explained,
Mhm.
but just one of those things. As when we did the trail down here in Beulah, we had to put up signs. You know, I can't remember exactly what the signage was, but we had to put up signs that it was sponsored by the DNR and those kind of things in certain places, and that was a requirement. So I imagine that'll be the same thing here. See how it goes. Other than that,
Okay.
that's all.
Questions for Gary? Glenn?
Okay, I had a lot of first time attendance to my new committees. Starting with, well, we've done central dispatch before the last meeting, but building and grounds, economic development, LEPC and LPT, which was a blast to learn about some of that stuff. And then I attend the Leelanau Benzie Health Department meeting tomorrow afternoon. Part of some of the highlights in building and grounds, there were so many things, but one of the things that hit me was the discussion about the stairways and rails and other things that are crumbling around the building. And I believe there's a sense of urgency. I just think we have to figure out how to, what the next steps are on that. The second thing that stood out to me, and again, a lot of this Ron already mentioned, but that we have 2 EMS locations now in the county. We're looking for a third. And that seems to be important enough to have discussed in the meeting the other day as well. And there was a possibility, was the old Benzie or Benzonia building township area was a candidate, and that we were gonna talk to the realtor and see what timelines there were with that. And that was kind of fascinating as more capacity is a good thing, I guess, when it comes to that in a more central location, that would be a faster response time, that kind of thing. So that was something I picked up on. The EDC meeting that we had, I see where Art has a real good comprehensive couple of bullets there, but the gentleman from DTE that got up and talked about it, that really was positive sounding. And after the meeting, I reached out to him and I said, hey, what about Colfax, just for fun? And one of the things he discussed is that you have to have this franchise with particular entities before you can even go to the next step. And he said, well, Glenn, we've already got the franchise. We're just waiting on a few other financial incentives because apparently our customers are too far apart on places like Carlin Road, for example. So it has to be something they get a grant for the state of Michigan, or it's profitable enough for them to take a chance at bringing natural gas out there. So I was at least heartened to know that it's they're looking all over the county for different opportunities, and they have franchises in other places and some and not. So I was happy to hear that at least we're on the radar with DTE. So other than that, I'll have some notes from the health department meeting.
Maybe. Okay. Just gonna go a little farther with the DTE thing. The franchise is the township's allowing them to use their right of way.
Right.
And that's really important. We're working on it in Blaine right now. So, Colfax would have to give that authorization. Anyway, yeah, I'm excited about that. Natural gas, that's huge.
Other comments or questions? Anything I will add then to the DTE discussion, because I think that's important for our community, is that we have been opening up dialogue with DTE. Density is a real concern for them. I mean, at the end of the day, they're there to make a profit. But that's a discussion that for years we weren't even able to have with them. And now that discussion's taking place. Part of what's helping the discussion is what's happening at the reservation behind Wesco and with the development of the casino. Because I think it is of that level of importance, I have asked the representative from DTE to come and present to this board their plans over the next 1 to 5 years. So that as commissioners, when we're asked about that question, and I am with some frequency, because of the cost of fuel, we can answer a little more intelligently. Bob?
So I attended one meeting since we were here last, and that was the Village of Lake Ann. Their focus right now is what's what's gonna take place in the spring with road improvements and a little more work on the village park. And snow blowing, they've taken on, there's only one sidewalk in the village and two of the board members live fairly close, so Al's using his snow blower and blowing up through the village and around the park and back, so it's a snowy day when they're snow blowing, but they're able to get it done. They're fortunately for them, they're younger guys. But that's all I got. I did attend a funeral the other day for Dan Gittes. His brother Kurt was a past member of Benzie County Veterans Affairs. Kind of unexpected. The fellas are getting up in age, but something went wrong and his heart quit and passed away. So wish the family the best. They've been a lifelong resident of Elmira Township. So.
Questions for Bob? Comments?
Thanks.
Bob, with respect to the village, from the 10,000-foot view, it looks like you've got some pretty good leadership there right now.
There is.
What are some of the, off the top of your head, can you identify maybe some of the accomplishments they've had in the last year?
Now, without sitting back and thinking about it and making some notes.
Clearly, the biggest one in my mind is the fact that he's been able to bring a large group of people together once a month. Is that right?
Yeah, those meets once a month.
No, I'm talking about in a coffee.
Oh, yeah, the morning coffee. Yeah, I don't attend because it is quite busy, especially this time of year. Yeah. But yeah, it's a good group. You're welcome to join it.
I have before.
I thought so.
Yep. Katie, you've participated in that also, right?
All the time.
Pretty good attendance, right?
Yeah, some months, I mean, there's like 30-ish people, but then there's some months too that are over 60 people. So it's a great group and it's a pretty big group as far as who comes. You know, there's locals, but then there's a lot of the surrounding locals. And then quite often there's, WTCM radio comes and senators come and it's a good group.
Pretty impressive for the village, the size of the village, how much participation they get from the business community.
Yeah, and they regulate speaking time, as far as I understand, so.
Like about 60 seconds.
You get a magic minute.
Yep. That's the perfect type of venue for me.
I think I said my name and I was done. That was it. I got to move on. All right. A couple of comments I'll make off of my report. From the Northwest Michigan Community Action Agency, I think all of you are aware that last year they made the investment to buy that building at the corner of Indian Hill and 31. They are beginning to utilize that building now. If you'll recall, they have a free tax service. They will be operating out of that building for their free tax service as well as bacon. If you have constituents that ask about it, or you could put it out there in your meetings, they want that service to be used. So if you would communicate that. Katie, when we come back around to you, I'm going to ask you on an EDC level to talk a little bit about an update on the broadband, because you've been closer to that than most of us. And among other visits that I made this past 2 or 3 weeks, I met with Representative Coffea, Katie and Leslie, and joined me with that. Rhonda was invited, but she had another commitment. The goal is, and I've been doing this the last 12 months, is to educate our elected officials on what's happening in Benzie County, so that when we go to them and we have an ask, they realize that we're trying to help ourselves. I was told many years ago by somebody that said, until you help yourself, I can't help you. And that resonated with me for the last 20 plus years. So I'm scheduling a visit with Roth and Bergman's representative from Bergman's office. And I'll be coming back to the same group of people, Rhonda, you too, to see if you can join me for that. That's all I've got. Katie?
Sure.
Can I ask you a question real quick?
Sure.
Have you reached out to Benzie Senior Resources on the tax service that you guys are doing there?
The agency did.
The agency did? Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Because there was a time that they did it in conjunction with the Benzie Senior Resources. But the agency is in touch with a number of these these organizations.
Thank you.
Appreciate the question. Katie?
Sure. So a busy couple of weeks that I've had. I was out most of last week at the Michigan Municipal Executives Conference. It was a great conference. That conference involves county administrators, city managers, charter township managers, and village managers. A lot of great presentations I touched on. We had a few related to communication and community engagement, specifically surrounding taxes and millages. And so that was a great class to sit through. Other leadership training and networking and those sorts of things. And then I had my first board meeting as an official board of director for that association. So that went really well. It was a couple of hours long, but we had a lot of good conversation about early career outreach and trying to, get more people involved in local government from, a kid standpoint, a young adult standpoint. And so we talked a lot about, getting the high schools more involved in teaching students about local government and career fairs, and then working with the different colleges. We were able to have a half a dozen MPA students from Wayne State University attend the conference so they could network with managers around the state of Michigan. So that was really great too. Just trying to get more people, coming up the pipeline into local government because a lot of people don't think about us. And so really great conference there. We do have our RFP closing the end of this week related to benefits agents. So we are exploring additional benefits agents. We may not change from what we have now, but it's been quite a few years. And so we're exploring other benefits agents for the group. And so once we have those RFPs, we'll pull together that personnel committee to look through those proposals related to the benefits agents as well as staff members too. We did during the open enrollment period have a benefits committee of staff so that they could be part of the conversation. So I'll invite staff also to be part of those conversations and exploring additional benefits agents for Benzie County. Broadband specifically. So there's a lot of movement still happening with broadband on both the digital equity side of it as well as the infrastructure side of it. Funding is coming down from the federal level. As we talked about before, it went from BEAD to Bob. So those dollars are still coming down, but they're coming down in a less of a fashion and a little different fashion. And so Cherry Capital is still working through the community to meet all of the deadlines that they've put in place regarding all the different funding that Benzie County has had come to it with the Bob, with the Robin, with the RDOF, and those sorts of things. Weirdly enough, when it comes to the BEAD to Bob, they expanded the money to be specifically to fiber in the ground to connection. And so there's a lot of conversation about that because initially, when we all started these conversations, it was, we want fiber to the home, fiber to the home, fiber to the home. That's the most reliable, that's the quickest, and therefore. Well, now, under the new administration, they've expanded that. And rather than, limiting to just fiber in the home, they're saying, let's just get people connected. And so they're allowing these other ways of internet to be receiving these federal dollars. And so there's satellite. Everybody's heard of Starlink internet. Well, now Amazon is going to come up with their own satellite internet too, is what we're hearing. And so through the Bob Award, Cherry Capital Communications did obtain quite a few addresses in Benzie County, but then a bunch of addresses specifically in your neck of the woods were awarded to Amazon and Starlink and Charter. And so, of course, a little bit of a letdown for Cherry Capital because, they wanted to get that. And they're doing fiber to the home, period. They're not doing this satellite thing. But that's not to say that Tim's not still trying. Tim is having conversations, Cherry Capital is having conversations with the other providers as much as he can to work with them to see if they can support each other to make sure everybody's getting service within Benzie County. But as of this point, the Blaine area specifically is to be serviced by a satellite internet for Amazon. Now, weirdly enough, they apparently don't think about the cost to run fiber. And so Tim, Cherry Capital Communications, was awarded, though, one address in Blaine Township. So he has to get the fiber to that one address. And obviously that's a lot of money, but his hope obviously from a business standpoint is as he's trying to get there, he can bring others on board along that route. But from a financial standpoint, you know, the state did not do him a solid to get him out there because it's one address in that township. So very weird how they rolled it out. But it's still all moving forward. They're going through this process right now of looking at the maps. So you'll recall a couple of years ago, we had a lot of conversation about the maps and identifying the properties that are serviced and unserviced. They're looking at those maps again to make sure nobody's being missed, that, yeah.
So under these new rules, if you do have Starlink, are you considered served?
Potentially, yes.
I know, because it's not all created equal. The
It is not.
quality is not the same as fiber.
Right. Right. So, but they're looking at the maps again to make sure there's nobody missed and, you know, that there hasn't been changes to the forecast. And so that's happening also from a Cherry Capital standpoint. And I'm sure Charter and the others are looking at it well. That's happening right now. So they're going through that right now to make sure that they can confirm every location that's serviceable and figure out who's going to be left. So part of that, though, is who's going to be left. Because even though the federal government and the state government is giving out all this money to the counties and everybody for broadband and internet per se, that doesn't mean internet for all, which was our goal as Benzie County. We said internet for all. And me personally, that means everybody, not 6 people left behind. And so through all of this federal funding and state funding that has been pushed out into the communities, we believe that there's still a small number of Benzie County residents who are just being left behind. And so we don't like that. And so in partnership with Cherry Capital, as well as still Mitch Shapiro and CBAN, we're looking at the data to really see who's being left behind in Benzie County. We think it's a very small number of folks, but we're trying to identify those specific addresses that would be left behind. And then we can have those conversations about what can we do to service those locations? What can we do to spark the conversation to get folks to go to those homes and those sorts of things? So we're continuously working through that because we believe internet for all is everyone, not leaving a few stragglers behind. We still have about $60,000 left of that initial $200,000 that this body committed to broadband. Those dollars were committed for Mitch Shapiro and the subject matter expert side of things. And quite frankly, Mitch Shapiro and the group, they donated a lot of their time to Benzie County. And so we still have $60,000 there. And so those funds specifically are going to continue to be utilized so that we can meet this internet for all goal, but also to look at it from a digital equity standpoint too. What can we do from that grassroots efforts to make an impact in our community because state and federal funding for digital equity and inclusion went away. You'll recall that our region received over $800,000 for the Mitten grant, and then the Mitten grant went away. So we're still talking about that at a local grassroots level because we believe that we can still have an impact on our neighbors when it comes to that, identifying the assets in Benzie County and then so forth, the libraries, the schools, and things like that. We also, as part of digital equity and inclusion, Merit was able to obtain funding to sponsor fellows across the state of Michigan. So educators and students looking to expand their horizons. So fellows across the state of Michigan, and the fellow for our region is going to be mostly dedicated to Benzie County at the cost to Merit through the grant funding that they receive. So we will have a gentleman who has office space in Grow Benzie, as well as if they need office space in this, for meetings and such. They'll be working heavily to support our grassroots efforts to establish the assets in Benzie County and when it comes to digital equity and inclusion, as well as helping us develop this whole plan as to how can we, we brought people internet, how can we educate them on how to best utilize the internet? So really cool for us that they're allowing this person to focus most of their time just on Benzie County when the rest of the fellows are having to focus their time on regions within the state of Michigan. So again, because of our forward thinking and because of the momentum we've had with broadband, we're continuously seeing the benefits of that because we've given such a hard focus on broadband in Benzie County. Any questions specifically to broadband?
Ken. the money from RDOF, which was the original one,
Mm-hmm.
but Mercury Wireless basically,
They forfeited.
did it go to Cherry Capital or anybody else, or is it just gone?
No. So under the RDOF, if they did not meet certain build out steps within that process, the money went back to the feds with penalty. And so that money went back. That money, to my understanding, was then thrown into the pot as part of the overall BEAD Bob funding. And so were those addresses. So because they were relinquished under RDOF, they were now then eligible through the BEAD Bob process. But a lot of those addresses are the ones that were swooped up by Amazon and Starlink. My understanding is Amazon doesn't even have one satellite in the sky yet. Yeah, they're going to provide satellite internet and it's not just Michigan and it's not just Benzie County. I mean, that was a federal award, and they were awarded many addresses across our country. So they must have some really good plans in place, maybe. I don't know. But it's been a question for everyone because they don't even have one satellite in the sky, yet now they're committed to providing service to thousands of people across our country.
Do you have any feedback from people that have Starlink and stuff? What kind of service?
I think there's someone
got
over
it?
there.
They're good or bad? I don't,
It's one of the only options we have.
that's why, okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, I hate it when it's your only option, but you do. I
By the unit.
like the fiber.
90 to
So-
120 megabits, not particularly fast.
Yeah.
And when Ascenta came in, it went from 120 to half a gig speed, go up to 1 gig if you want.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's night and day difference.
Well, and it's funny because, the original funding is they wanted 100 by 100 symmetrical, and then it was 300 by 300. And now the expectation is gig symmetrical. So lightning speeds. Also, as
Katie,
yes,
before you leave that,
yes.
is there a new definition for underserved?
For this funding, yes. And that is why now that the satellite internet is becoming allowed to use this money, because there's no longer this 100 by 100, 300 by 300 symmetrical. It's much lower, and I can't remember the numbers off the top of my head.
Okay.
For the serviceable, what's considered service is a lower standard. Yeah. But so segueing into the EDC discussion, you may recall hearing the name John Willow. Over time, she was with C-band and helping us through some of this broadband projects here in Benzie County. Well, she is the new EDC director for the partnership between the chamber and the county. So really exciting. Now she's going to be focusing on economic development for our community. She also has that heavy knowledge of broadband too. So still helping us in the efforts of broadband, but also into economic development. And I assume we're going to have her at a future meeting soon to meet everybody.
Yeah, I wanted to give her 60 days.
Yeah.
I would add to that though, even though we've formed this new partnership with respect to broadband, that's staying currently with the county's EDC
Mhm.
because it's the county's money that was invested for that.
Yes. But she'll be coming soon for you guys to officially meet her. Outside of that, I'm playing catch up from last week, but that's all good there. Lots of meetings with the road commission over the last few weeks. That's been going great. Like I said, I do have the Hobbs and Black documents here if anyone would like to view those documents specifically from them. They were a great group of folks. They brought their entire team. And so as you can imagine, you've all seen the road commission meeting room. It was a little tight in there, but it went really well.
Where did they come in bid wise with all the other ones?
They weren't the lowest, they were closer to the low.
They were mid-range. I know.
Yeah.
Didn't it go up to like 1.65 or 6 million? 300,000 to 1.6?
Yeah, so their not to exceed was 816,000. But that's for stakeholder involvement, design schematics, design development, topo, architectural design, furnishings, construction date, phase, and bidding and awarding. So that's to see all those things through. They also said that they would assist the road commission in putting together the RFP for a construction manager as well, so that we have a good RFP for a construction manager, because that person is also to be hired, so that we have a owner's representative who is a subject matter expert in construction overseeing this project, in addition to the architecture folks who are also working for us to ensure that there's no hiccups in the process. I don't have anything else unless I'm forgetting or missing something.
Any questions or comments? And Katie, do you want to talk at all to the budget at a glance?
Oh, yeah. All of you have just a couple budget at a glances on your desk. Those have been printed. We didn't get a ton right off the bat. This is what we could get immediately for you. And then they're working on printing a good stack of them for you. And so probably next week sometime you can come into the office and get a stack of them. So you can hand those out to your townships and so forth. But here it is. It's got your new picture on it. So you smiled well. So we included your photo. But you just got a couple to start, and we'll also get the PDF on the website too, so that the community can see it digitally if they would like to.
There's nothing else under correspondence. You had that in your packet. Hopefully you've had a chance to take a look at that. I'd open up our last public comment. Oh. Come on.
Rebecca Hubers, Office of Emergency Management. I apologize I wasn't here for the department head and first public comment. I had another meeting. My office was awarded a 2% tribal allocation for funds for a project that we submitted. And that presentation of check is January 30th. It's Friday. At 2:00, and I believe that's at the Grand Traverse Resort. On one of the high floors there that they normally have that event.
17th floor, if anyone would like
I
to
know
go.
that the board is always wants to know about those events to be able to partake if they can. I will be there to accept that. And then the Benson County Sheriff's Office, I guess they assisted me. It was a complaint about some flooding on the Platte River. It happens sometimes, especially when we have extremely cold weather and we start getting some ice damming because of the lake progress. So this would be the Platte River section above Big Platte and going up in through the Village of Honor. We did put an airboat on the river in the sections on either side of Indian Hill, but below 31 to try and break up those ice dams to get it flowing. However, it's extremely cold. So, you know, we had an ice dam, we pretty much made it a slushy dam, and then I'm sure it just froze again. The warmest, we used the warmest day possible, which was 14 degrees, and we haven't had a break. So I believe we'll probably have to go back there. It's not the best mitigation plan, but it's the only one that we kind of have with the resources that we have available to be able to help people not get substantial flooding in the Village of Honor. So we're still kind of monitoring and working on that as being a problem that this cold weather has presented to us. Otherwise, statewide, they've had quite a few different things. I constantly get calls from 211 and other places about warming shelters and whatnot. Our community is very resilient. Our stance from the Office of Emergency Management is just if there are long-term power outages that make it no longer safe for people to be in their homes, we'll provide resources, but we don't just have a standard operation of warming shelters or anything that we supply because it takes manpower and volunteer hours and places. We don't like people. If the weather's bad, I don't want people driving all the way across the county just to be able to go and do, charge up their phone. There are places like the casino or restaurants that hopefully if they have power that they could, go there and help as well. But so far we've been lucky on all of those other aspects of cold weather snap that everybody's running around freaking out about.
I know we're in public comment, but is there any questions for Rebecca?
Are you the only one that got an award from Benzie?
I don't know.
No?
Well,
There might be a list somewhere.
yeah, there's a list. So Benzie County government specifically, Rebecca, yes, but then also Benzie Senior Resources was awarded. Horse North Rescue was also awarded, which was another one that we sponsored, and then Horse North, I'm not missing, and Hope House. So 4 applications that we sponsored were awarded.
I only
Oh,
get a
no.
letter for just myself, so I'm sorry, I didn't go look.
How many did we apply for?
5.
Want some of the commissioners to go?
That would be great.
You're reading my mind.
So,
Bob, you typically attend?
Mhm.
Gary, you've attended in the past?
Try
So-
to go.
Is there
It is-
anybody else that may be able to attend that event?
it is this Friday, from 2 to 4, and it's the 17th floor of the resort.
Same place it was last time.
Correct, yep.
And they
Let me
do
pick it
ask that you reserve, that you send in your RSVP. Does anybody need admin to do that for them?
I know we confirmed at least Rebecca was going with Pages with the tribe, and I can let her know if others, I could tell her we could have up to 3. Does that seem safe?
That way, if I can make it, I will. If I
Yeah.
can't.
Okay,
I think
I'll let
Bob
Paige
just-
know.
Did you wonder?
Yeah, I'll go.
Okay, I'll let Paige know.
And if anybody else decides in the next 24 hours that you'd like to go, feel free. I think it's important we have representation. I'm sorry that I don't attend, but as I've been told, Bob has coached us on this before. Not many communities show up, and I think it makes a difference.
It does.
One that really bothers me. Grand Traverse.
Well, it's a long ways for him to go.
Yeah, and all the awards they get, just kind of.
Great.
I will say it's a pretty moving event. It's really cool to be part of. They do some, ceremonial type items at the beginning of it with the drumming and the singing, and it's a really neat event to be part of.
Very good.
I have a quick question.
Please.
Has anybody else been receiving invitations to the Advocates for Benzie County? It's a meeting tomorrow
Annual
night.
meeting or something?
Yeah, the annual,
Yeah,
there's a
I
dinner
so.
and then a meeting after that. Is that anything we've ever sent a commissioner to attend?
I'm not aware that we have, but Bob, do you remember sending anybody?
So I remember going to one, but it was only just to check out and see what they were doing.
Gotcha. Were you planning on attending?
I didn't know. I mean, I've received the invitation. Did you get one too, Gary?
I got one, but they used to come here. And actually, I think they used our facility a couple of times, but
Mhm.
I don't hear much from them. This is about the only thing I hear once a year.
They've been pretty quiet, but I think to answer the question, if any commissioner wants to attend, that would be a qualifying per diem.
It's the Advocate. You mean the newspaper?
No,
No,
No.
it's a group. They're meeting at the gathering place, right?
That where it was,
I
I can't
believe so.
probably.
They're a community group in Benzie County, the Advocates for Benzie, and their mission is to support our community and growth in our community and services in our community, and they're just advocates for our community. And they've been around for a long, long time.
they organized some time ago. They used to be more visible in the community. They've not been very visible over the last 3 years. But do you remember when NMC was making an effort to have a millage put on our ballot? The advocates, although I was told privately they weren't endorsing it, they were the conduit to the community to promote it.
And I believe that will be, it says, educational initiatives. The agenda is update on the study of adult learners in Benzie County, report on Dolly Parton Imagination Library and early childhood education, and the future of the Advocates for Benzie County, and election of board members. And it was sent, thanks so much, Jack Harnish.
So again, feel free to attend if you have the opportunity.
Maybe Rhonda can forward it.
I don't know what are they gonna have, steak or what?
If you go at 6, you get a spaghetti dinner. 6:30 is the actual meeting.
Okay.
Any other comments?
Who knows?
Otherwise, I'd look for a motion for
Motion to adjourn?
Bob,
Second, whatever.
Lynn, any